Hello and welcome to episode 57-ish
57
of the RetroSlot podcast. We got a very exciting episode this week. We're talking about The Legend of Zelda, and we also have Josh on from Sidequest Games. It's a retro store in the Seattle area, right?
Portland.
We're in Portland.
Portland,
We're in
my
Portland,
bad.
Oregon. Yep.
So he's the just to give some preface here for anybody that's listened to the podcast for the past year or two, they've known about my first print Mario, the graded one. Josh was actually the one who bought that for me amongst some other sealed games and stuff. So that's kind of how we got connected. I pawned a bunch of Skylanders and stuff on him recently too. So he's been he's been pretty nice. But we're happy to have you here, Josh. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you been?
I was just dealing. I'm doing pretty good, actually. I was just dealing with that Map Mario earlier today. And
Right,
so
you
thanks
asked me
for
for
those
pictures.
photos. Yeah, I was kind of surprised you didn't have the inserts in there, but
Yeah.
you know, you're not a store owner, so you can't just go to the back room and grab posters and inserts.
Right. And that one's weird too because it has to have a very specific poster with the 85
Yeah.
thing on it.
Oh, look at you with all your knowledge.
Well, when I have it in my possession, I try to,
Right.
know what I have. That's kind of it's what I enjoy about collecting. Sometimes you pick up stuff you don't know, and then when you have it, you're like, oh, what version of the black box is this and all that stuff. You kind of
Right.
get the more you so, and I'm sure you're the same way, but a lot more stuff goes through your hands.
Well, yeah, it's a rabbit hole every time.
Right. Briar, how have you been, man?
I've been doing good. I did a little virtual golf this weekend, which was super fun. Like hitting the ball
Like
indoors
Topgolf
into the
stuff?
screen. Yeah,
Nice.
that was nice to pretend I'm outside for a little bit.
How'd you shoot?
How'd I do? Not very well,
Yeah.
honestly. I was pretty convinced for the front nine that the thing was broken because the ball kept like shooting to the left, but the back nine kind of cleared that issue up, and it was not the machine that was broken.
It's so weird that in real life I have this really wicked slice, and then when I go play top golf, it's still there.
Yeah,
Very
weird.
strange. I was wondering, do we want to? Because I was just gonna like ask a fun question. Do we want to do that after Josh's interview type stuff?
Sure.
Briar, what do you think?
Yeah.
Discussion topics. So I didn't put this on here, but I just like silly questions. What is your guys' favorite fast food dessert?
Fast food dessert. Does the Frosty count if I dip my fries in it?
Well, yeah, it's a fast food dessert, so yeah.
Okay, it's the Frosty.
So fast food dessert.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Okay. No,
I mean, it's hard to not say Blizzard, right?
Yeah, I mean that's some people are like McFlurry. I'm like McFlurry is the budget Blizzard.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when McFlurries came out, right? Like we used to have them all the time, but yeah.
Probably a while ago, and everybody always jokes about the ice cream machine being down and all that stuff because
that's just true, right?
One company does all the servicing. That's
right.
That's the issue there. For me, I mean Blizzard's the go-to probably, but if I'm gonna choose something different, I'd go Hershey Pie from Burger King.
Oh, that sounds good.
Never had that.
Oh my god, it's so good. You guys got to try it. It's like
a chocolate pie, I would assume.
Chocolate cream pie in like a little cardboard pizza slice looking thing.
Okay, that does sound good.
It's delicious.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go with just like a milkshake, but like Baskin Robbins or something. I don't know if that's. I don't usually think of fast food when I say Baskin Robbins. That's just strictly ice cream.
Sure. Yeah, you're not going there to get a burger or something.
Right.
They're the 36 flavors, folks, right?
31.
31, yeah.
Oh,
it's in the logo.
Really
yeah.
I kind of forgot about apple pie from McDonald's, but I don't actually know if they still sell that because I don't think I've had it since I was like 10 years old.
They do, and we just went there Sunday and visited some friends and took our kids, and they played in the play structure. They have blueberry and cream pies right now.
Blueberry and cream.
Yes.
But do they still sell apple?
Yes.
Okay.
You can get a 2-pack. You can get just the one, but they're like $2 or what are they? They're $1.50 a piece now instead of like 2 for $1. You remember when they were 2 for $1 back in the day?
Mm-mm.
No?
No.
I do.
Yeah. They used to be 2 for a buck.
I applaud you for letting your kids play in the play structure. I mean, those things are
Yeah, how
gross,
rigorously do
dude.
you have to clean your kids after they get out of the ball pit
Our
from
kids were the
McDonald's?
sick ones. No, we
Yeah.
lots of hand sanitizer.
True. He's
our
joking, but he,
well, we were sick like 2 weeks ago, but they,
Okay.
you know, but hand sanitizer, lots of hand washing and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
you know, they're kids. They go to school, they go to daycare. It's not like you can keep germs away from them. It's just one of those things. Get the immunities. I don't know, like as long as it's not COVID and stuff. It's just
You don't
cold,
see
so
those too often. The play. What is it called? The playroom?
play structure. Yeah,
Play
yeah.
structure? Yeah, you don't
I'm
see 'em
sure
too
there's like
often.
a McDonald's copywritten term for it, but I don't.
Right, with like
Nobody
a
knows.
big Mayor McCheese like castle where you like get to sit in his head and like look out through his teeth.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
The one near us is pretty decent. It's like 3 levels, and there's like it's like a budget. You know those places that you can go and pay like 15 or 20 bucks to take your kids, and they just run around in the play
like the
structure.
bouncy houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like a budget version of that, so it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I mean,
The
for
last
the
time I
cost.
was in a ball pit, it was a Burger King, not a McDonald's. It was because we did for our high school talent show, we needed a lot of balls to throw out into the audience as part of the joke.
You were stealing balls from the ball pit.
We went to Burger King with big duffel bags. Just walked in, filled up the duffel bags,
No.
and ran
Oh.
away.
Oh wow,
That's a bad image, Briar.
that is terrible.
There's this time I
Stealing
went to
from the
Burger
kids,
King.
man. Stealing from the kids. Did you bring them back after?
No. And we also got in trouble for throwing them into the audience at the high school talent show.
Just twofer.
Yeah.
When you started this story as the last time I was in a ball pit, I was just picturing you as an adult
Yeah.
going into the ball pit somewhere. Like, oh no, it's not going well.
No, I'm too germophobic to get into a ball pit anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, you're probably banned from them anyway.
That's right. Lifetime ban. There's a picture of there's my picture of the ball pit.
Every ball pit,
Do not
around
let
the
this
area.
person in.
steal your balls.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this on the last podcast. The analog pocket. I don't know if you have one of these, Josh.
I have not. I've
haven't?
had a couple that I've sold, but I haven't opened one.
Okay. So I've been saying, and I've had this since release, I've been saying since the beginning that I really want like a phone type case for it. Just like
Yeah.
something to protect the edges. It's not like a cheap thing. And you just can't. Most of the time it's like a case that you like put the entire thing into and you pull it out and you play it. But on Etsy, I got, and we were talking about it 2 weeks ago. I can't remember the name of the person now. I had talked about it 2 weeks ago, but it finally
I think
came
I
in the
still have
mail.
link.
Yeah, it's a TPU case. So it's like a 3D printed, like rubbery kind of case.
Mighty Oak
and
Entertainment was the Etsy seller.
Mighty Oak. Yeah. It works well. It fits snug. The only thing I'd say is I wish kind of the front face was protected as well. Maybe not the buttons, but I wish that, to prevent some scratches. But it's nice. It's textured and stuff. So for $20,
How
getting
bendy
some
is
kinda-
it?
I mean,
Oh yeah, look
it's
at
like
that.
it's like a phone case. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
rubbery plastic. It's
That's
not
interesting.
rigid. It's not going to scratch it or anything like that.
How come
yeah,
you went with black?
white on black. It was either this or blue or purple.
Oh, okay.
So white on black looks good to me.
All right. I
anyways.
was just thinking like white would be good for the white.
What my phone is too,
Oh, look at that.
black on white. Anyways,
Yeah, you get a pattern going.
Yeah.
and
You get
gray and
predictable.
white, and
Yeah.
black and
Yeah.
white, and it's I'm a simple dude. What can I say? Black and white. Who doesn't like black and white? So Briar, you had a question here.
Yeah, I did. And so this actually popped in my head because I was discussing with my mother an old favorite gaming related memory. So I wanted to ask you guys, what is your favorite gaming related memory? It doesn't have to be necessarily of playing a game, but just something that sticks out when you think like way back in the day. For example, I put a couple like reading a manual in a car ride home, like after you rented a game or bought a game, or mowing lawns to pay for a game or a system or something like that.
I'll let Josh go first. He's got one.
Well, so a few things stick out in my mind. So I remember, we'll go chronological. So the earliest memory that I want to talk about was when I was probably, I would say 7 or 8, playing Super Mario Bros, the original one. I remember I was on like the third castle, and I think my mom called me downstairs or something, or like I had to use the restroom or something. And I get up, I was playing with my brother, my older brother, who was a jerk at the time. And
I can relate to that.
He either tripped me on purpose or like pulled his cord tight, whatever. I tripped and like hit my head on the desk and cracked it
Ooh.
open. And so I went.
Favorite memory of yours?
Yeah, how does this get to your top
No,
of your
I'm
list
just saying,
for
like
favorites?
this one stands out. So I have a few. That one
Okay.
stands out. And because I remember like specifically, like I had to go to Stitches. I remember like telling my brother, like, don't unpause the game, right? Because I was in the middle of my game. I was like, you better not unpause the game. Like I was more concerned with that than the blood rushing down my forehead.
Sure.
Um,
Priorities.
yeah. So and then when it comes to like Zelda, I specifically remember. I mean, we played a ton of Zelda, but I remember sitting down in high school and like skipping school, of course, and like because I wanted to beat it, in one sit through. Took about half a day, not like the 30 or 45 minutes they can do these days. And then I had a similar memory with Punch Out. The only time I've ever beat Punch Out was another like into my high school years, skipping school, beating Punch Out. Yeah.
Nice.
So
There you go. Top that.
top that. So you mentioned having a jerk brother. Like, my brother's 5 years older than me. When we were kids, he didn't really want anything to do with me for the most part, but we'd play games together. I do remember, my favorite system's the Super Nintendo. I think I'm a little younger than you guys, but um, so our whole thing was before we got the Super Nintendo, there was probably a year where we didn't have it when it was like out, but we didn't have it. And we'd have our report cards come in. And if we got A's and B's, then we could like rent a system for the weekend or the week or whatever. And I always chose Super Nintendo, and we always ended up going with Street Fighter 2 because it was the game that we could play together. Because there wasn't I mean, for us when he's 5 years older, I was like whatever, uh 7 at the time, maybe. There wasn't a whole lot of games that we could play together.
Yeah.
So Street Fighter was the one, and just over and over again before we got the Super Nintendo. But like going back when I was younger, when I was probably 4 or 5, I used to chew the cords on the NES controllers.
Oh, you're like my dog.
I don't know why I did it. And my brother would get pissed. He'd like hit me and stuff. It was bad.
Justified in this instance.
Well, yeah, I mean, because we get those controllers in now, and we have to deal with them, and the parents always blaming the kid or the dog. But in your case, if I get any controllers from you with two cords,
yeah, just they taste good. What can I say? Just a little mid-afternoon snack. But other than that, I'd say like playing Super Mario 64 for the very first time. I remember just how amazed I was at the environment and the 3D graphics and stuff. It just felt I remember how I felt when I popped it on and I just started playing that first level. I just like there's not a whole lot of vivid memories that I have, but I specifically remember just how I felt in that moment. It's just kind of wild to me.
You must be a lot younger because I was disappointed with it.
Really? Well, I'm 37, so when that came out, I was probably like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I was not very old. I mean, I also did play like Quake and Doom and stuff like that too, but not as much. I don't know. It just felt pretty cool to me. What about you, Briar?
I got 2 Zelda related ones, but they're about the same game, so I'm just gonna tell them both. The first one is I was visiting my father, and he brought me to a friend's house who had a NES, and they kind of plopped me in front of the NES. I was itty bitty, right? This was probably when the NES was brand new, and he had Zelda, and I was just blown away. Right, I was just like, I'd never seen anything like it. Like, it looked so good, and also it was so deep. And I remember I had Excitebike, and I was trying to trade him for Excitebike. This adult male was like, "No, I'm not taking Excitebike for Zelda, you punk." So I did not leave that place with Zelda, but I left that place with a huge impression of Zelda. And I immediately went home to my mother and I begged for Zelda for the next however long until the next Christmas or birthday came up. I don't actually remember when I got it. And then I devoted my life to playing Zelda after that, right? That's all I wanted to do. I was just completely involved in it. But I got stuck on the 7th dungeon, right? Because this was before, I don't know, maybe, Josh, do you know, was Nintendo Power a thing when Zelda came out? Or did that come later? It was?
No,
so I didn't have
that.
access to any guides or anything, so I just had to figure this shit out, right? And the 7th dungeon was the place where I got stuck. It turned out I had to find like a specific wall to bomb to continue moving on. And I was getting really frustrated. And I think I was getting really frustrated for like multiple days. And my mother took pity on me and came and helped me find the correct wall. So we sat there together and we basically like bombed every wall in the Zelda dungeon. And I don't think I had like the extra bomb collectibles. I think so. I just had to like use the bombs. How many bombs do you start with? Like 5 or 6?
4, and then 8 and 16, I believe, or maybe
So
12 and 16.
I had to just go through 4 bombs, but then once you tried 4 walls, you had to go find more bombs.
Get more
right?
bombs.
Yeah. So it was like it was this really tedious process. I remember my mother just being really patient and like we basically mapped out the entire dungeon and like all the walls that we had tried. And like we finally found the correct wall, and we moved on, and we beat that dungeon together. I was actually just talking about that with my mother. And she remembered it too.
Man, so yeah, the first Nintendo Power had the Zelda map in it. That was
really?
That was the poster.
That would have been super helpful.
That would have been You could have learned how to get 16 bombs.
Yeah.
I was reading the story, kind of when getting the notes for the episode and stuff. Yeah, this was kind of the beginning of the Tip Guide Club. So it wasn't called the Nintendo Power yet. So there was like a club that you could send in to get free like mailers. Essentially, they'd mail out stuff. And as that got bigger, it turned into Nintendo Power.
Okay.
So but it was around the time that like Zelda and Mario came out that all kind of came to fruition. It was interesting to learn about that.
Tips and tricks.
I do have the gold Tips and Tricks Zelda book. It's I don't know, probably like 60 pages or something like that. Somewhere it's in a
there's quite a few of them.
Yeah. Then there's the map, it's funny because in the manual and in the map there's like a little bit of guide. Like this is a map, but it's really only a map to like, I don't know. It's got the overlay map, but it really doesn't show you anything except for the first 2 areas. And that's it. They're like, have fun.
I mean, that's what it was about. It's about like getting out there and discovering it for yourself.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, my mom never helped me with my games.
No,
my parents didn't either. Yeah.
In fact, I don't think I have a memory of either one of my parents playing video games with me. I'll play pinball with my dad, but never really got in. Well, maybe it's an arcade, but not like never can I remember him sitting down and playing console game with us. Wasn't his thing. I don't really remember trying to get him to either. So
yeah, she didn't play video games. My mother didn't play video games. She just could see I was so frustrated.
Right.
She's like, this poor child playing this poor child's toy.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can give him a hand here.
Yeah, my older brother and I, a couple years older than me, he wasn't really a jerk, but just at that moment, we just figured it all out together. We loved the Zelda series. Absolutely loved it. In fact, Zelda 2 is one of my favorites as well, and a lot of people don't like that one.
Yeah.
I think at the time I preferred it because it was simpler for me as a kid.
I mean, it's much different, but I thought it was harder. I mean, because you couldn't just keep continuing. Like you always had to go back to the beginning. You only had 3 lives.
If you didn't know you had to grind for experience points, that could make it more difficult.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the real grind. That was the real grind, and there's a handful of free men, around the map, but you only get them once,
I
Yeah.
suppose I meant easier as in just the gameplay mechanics, because it's not as
Yeah.
I never
I
beat it.
always thought it was,
So as a kid, I probably only
yeah, it
played
was
the first
tougher.
yeah, I probably only played the first few levels over and over and over again. So,
Yeah.
Josh, how
But
long
it's
have you
fun.
been collecting video games?
So well, I mean, I've been pretty into games as a kid. I did take a pretty good break from probably like after N64, so late 90s. I'd never really got into anything after that until a little later on. I just got so busy with, adulting around the early 2000s that I didn't do a whole lot. I never really got a bug to collect. In fact, I don't remember what happened to my old games. Probably one of my brothers or parents sold them. But I never really got a bug to collect until I started flipping games on the side. And that was probably 10, 11 years ago. I don't know, 2011 or 12.
Hmm.
And I started flipping games on the side. I was a car dealer, and actually my younger brothers were buying and selling games and collecting NES. And I mean, that's kind of how the whole thing started.
so yeah, it
Um,
really hasn't been that long. Seems like.
Not really. No, I mean, I never thought about being, collecting anything other than like sports cards, right?
Sure.
Until I was. I mean, I wish I had started a little earlier,
Right.
or even just, I've the tough thing about being a store owner is that, you're always trying to balance your wants as a collector versus, what you got to pay for your bills. So
Sure.
I'm always trying to balance that. And when I first started, my first love is the NES, so I was trying to, do the whole set. But after you get into 400 or 500 titles, you realize how much space it takes up. You realize how much like money you have sitting there. And like I had just shut down my car business. I was like, I can't afford to, have $5 grand worth of stuff sitting there. So that's kind of when I made the decision to be really selective with what I have, as a collectible or not really for sale. And but now that I have a lot more, freedom, I enjoy stuff in the store and kind of just, if someone talks me out of it, they talk me out of it. But there's a lot of stuff that if they ask me, like, yeah, it's not really for sale.
Is your collection at the store?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have some stuff at the house, but most of it is just I enjoy it through the store. I'll have it in the back room on my desk or back. It's just kind of all over the place or up on the walls in the store. I try to not put out too much that's not for sale because a lot of stores do that, and I think it kind of drives people crazy. But
Yeah.
um, a lot of I got more into like the retail display stuff, like the banners and posters and signage and stuff like that. That kind of makes the store look good is the stuff that I don't usually, try to sell too often. I have bought and sold them over and over again as needed, but usually I'll try to hang on to that stuff until I, really need some cash or something.
Sure. So you
But
you said that you started collecting around the time that you were flipping like 10, 12 years ago. So when did Sidequest start? Like when did the store start?
so I originally and like on my Twitch account, I think it's the place for gamers. So the original name I came up with was the place for gamers. I was I was selling out of my car lot in some extra offices. And then when I finally opened up the brick and mortar, I guess it's going on 4 years in May, I think. That's when I switched over to Sidequest games, just because honestly, a lot of it was because of the length of the place for gamers on the sign. Like I didn't want to
Oh, sure.
pay for all those characters, and I felt like it was a little like it wasn't really specific. I still am not. I love the name SideQuest Games, but it's all we get a lot of like requests for like tabletop stuff, and people kind of never
Oh,
100%
interesting.
sure what we're doing. Um, but like as I've rebranded things a little bit, like on my cards now, it'll say Sidequest Games, video games, and collectibles. Because I do some other stuff. It's primarily video games, but we dabble in cards and other collectibles as well.
Sure. So how does that transition happen? So you're flipping games for a while. You probably
Mhm.
have some kind of inventory stocked up, and that decision that you're like, okay, well, I want to open a store. How does that transition happen for you?
Well, I was heavily persuaded by my wonderful wife, who said you have too much stuff in the house,
I can relate to
and
that.
and so so it all started when I left the car business to because like I said, I originally was doing it out of the store. I was just hitting up thrift stores and things like on the side. And then I did some like door to door stuff. Like I was just knocking on people's doors looking for games.
Wow.
I would pay like high schoolers to hang flyers for me door to door, and we just some creative ways to find inventory, right? And as it started to grow, the car business was kind of on like the downhill side of things, right? It was really changing, like from '08 to 2012, recession time, and the car business was really kind of in flux. And I was just thinking, I could cut back on all this overhead and work from home. So I gave it a shot, and then I did it for probably 2 or 3 years. It just steadily grew. It was mainly like Amazon sales and stuff. Then I started looking for a store. I contacted my old landlord, who I had known personally, the old landlord of the car lot, who had commercial property all over the area. And I asked him about potentially opening up a store. And he ended up talking me into buying his parents' house, which had like two garages and seemingly plenty of space for me to kind of separate personal from business and just do my online thing. And it was a killer deal with property and everything, so it was one of those things I couldn't pass up. But after about 18 months or 2 years, like that garage that I had all myself was overfilled, and so I was back to starting to look for a store again. And then I opened up the store. I guess it was 2019, and a year later, COVID hit. My business just skyrocketed,
Mhm.
and we expanded the store about a year and a half after opening. We doubled the size of it, and then I'm honestly I'm looking for more space right now. So
Wow. So
yeah.
it's very quick for you. I mean,
It's been really
so
quick, but I had, it was like a 10-year transition of building up contacts and networking and inventory. You know, it took a long time in that sense. But once the store hit, it was like boom, 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 boom.
so from there, how do you get into the high end like sealed stuff? Because I imagine there was a transition there.
So, well, partly well, I met Dennis, found one of the founders of WADA Games back in probably must have been 2017 or 18, and at PRGE, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and he was talking to me about starting this company, and I had dealt with VGA grade games over the years, but it was never, I was purely like I need to pay bills mindset, like whatever I could buy to pay my bills, I would buy. Like
Mhm.
I did other electronics too, like graphing calculators, like analog, TV
Sure.
converters, and whatever I could. But it was primarily video game focused. Um, so I never like, and sealed games were not. They weren't. I don't know. They just weren't nearly as valuable.
Sure.
So about that time, I kind of told them like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to compete with VGA. That's what I told them when I met him, and I was selling him a huge sign at the time, huge Pepsi Mario like collaboration sign. Um, but So I started giving it some more thought, and it was more like just things just kept happening to where I was getting offered more sealed games, right? So in fact, one of the horror stories I have of selling sealed games too early relates to Zelda. I had 2 sealed copies of the NES Zelda back then that I sold for $1,000 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't graded. They were in pretty good condition, but it was like right when like WADA was starting. I was a little unsure about the whole process, and things hadn't skyrocketed. Well, like a year later, they were worth like 30, 40 grand a piece.
Wow.
And so yeah, those were at the time, like I was selling them for like whatever they're worth. But so I don't know that I really like tried to get into it, but as I became more educated, and you have when you have some knowledge, people come to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stores in the area here don't like dealing with them, and I had this big network of people all around the country that I've been buying stuff from, and they all had a handful or a few dozen games in their collection that were sealed. And as the environment started changing for those, I would just get reached out to, and then, luckily enough, I had some extra capital laying around to invest in that stuff, and then it just snowballed. Really,
Sure.
it was definitely not a conscious decision. Honestly, I did the same thing in cars. Somehow I wound up selling a lot of higher end vehicles that just you buy what you're comfortable with, and that's really it. And
And
that's quite frankly, like, it's not a big percentage of my business.
sure.
Like, dollar wise it might be, and it's the sexy thing that people want to look at, but most of my business is just the average person coming and looking for PS2 and some games to play, or whatever. It's not, hey, do you got a first print, Mario that I can, blow a paycheck on? But I have had some deals where it was, here, I want to spend 50 grand on this game or 80 grand on this game. So those are the ones that are fun to talk about, but it's still a pretty small percentage of like the
Sure.
average
I mean,
stuff. Yeah.
from my perspective, I had talked to like 1 or 2 other stores in the area. I just was shying away from some of the stuff that I had, the values that have gone up in the past few years. Like, I was like, I don't necessarily want to sit on these, but I don't want to necessarily sell them online because scams and stuff. And I don't really want to deal with people locally because same kind of thing. Like, it's a trust issue. And
Right.
so when I saw you on like Facebook and stuff talking about graded and sealed games, I was like, huh, I wonder if he'd be interested in some of the stuff that I've been sitting like, similar to you. I didn't really start collecting till maybe 10 years ago. And all these sealed games that I probably still have a dozen or two smaller
Yeah, all
ones.
the
But
good stuff that you
no,
did sell me.
no. I gave you the good stuff. I keep telling you.
Hmm.
But um I didn't have a love for sealed stuff. It was just things that I got a good price for, and I couldn't,
Right.
turn down at that point. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to him and see if he's interested. And right away, Josh was like, yeah, come bring him down. So I was trying to schedule time, and we ended up working out a deal, which I'm happy with, and hopefully Josh is happy with. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, great. It's awesome.
Great. No, I mean, I usually don't get into deals I'm not happy with. So,
Sure.
I'm like you though. I've never like been drawn to collecting seal games per se. But I do have some that I've acquired at a reasonable price. They do have like, I don't know, some sentimental value, but not to the degree that a lot of other people get into.
Sure. Where do you see with the way the market's kind of gone up and it's stabilized a little bit, where do you see the market for retro and or sealed stuff in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I definitely, right, the retro stuff is pretty solid. I mean, we definitely had a huge, upswing in values over COVID. Everyone was, a lot of people were getting stimulus money. I mean, I'd have people come in and say, I got $400 to spend, and they would just 3 or 4 of them line up, and they would each spend $400 stimulus money, and it worked. I was stimulated. I mean, you know, you know, no, so we had this growth. You know, inflation's been going crazy, and so values have kind of gone nuts. Sealed games, all of a sudden there's this huge, and I kind of separate the two, and a lot of people try to like equate sealed games with like raising the value of used stuff. I don't really see it that way, because they're not the same. I mean, the people paying crazy money for sealed stuff, they're not looking to buy your CIB Zelda or your loose card.
Sure.
But we had this huge influx of demand for sealed games. And granted, a lot of it was, speculators and just kind of this fear of missing out. But a lot of it was just the fact that there was all this new information that was out there. People started, really tracking, sets and variants and the quantities out there, and they realized like how crazy rare a lot of this stuff is. And so people saw that, and all of a sudden it became more valuable to them and other people. And so you had this, and then of course the media went crazy. You had auction houses and grading companies, and everyone just kind of went nuts. And now you're on this like huge like downturn. I do think that the playable stuff has really kind of evened out. Like it's been, some of it's been in flux, some of it has gone way down, but not like the sealed stuff. I do think that in the long run, you're going to continually see stuff go up in value. I certainly don't like speculate long term, and I don't really encourage people to speculate long term on video games. Go buy some property or stocks or whatever.
Sure.
Something that's more stable. But like video games, for me, even as someone who does it for a living, I'm just trying to buy them and at a point where I think I can sell it tomorrow if I had to, or in the short term. But I definitely think that there's some big potential there, but not to the point where I would encourage people to put their nest egg in it.
Right.
But expendable income is one thing. You can play around with it. But it really comes down to, and I think we've talked about this before, like for sealed stuff, like it's the top tier stuff that really is. That's what there's still a lot of stability in that really top tier stuff. High grade, big titles, all the mediocre stuff, like 7.0 matte sticker Marios or whatever. Like, that's just, no, I mean, yeah, honestly, I'm just all kidding aside. Like the mediocre stuff is what really has been hurt the most. And a lot of it, that's just because there's been more of it found.
Sure. Yeah, people are like, oh, this is worth something. Yeah, let's get it checked out.
But like the top tier stuff, super high grade or super low numbers, that's still on the rise. And like at any given time, if a sealed matte Mario came out, I mean, it would break millions of dollars.
Sure. It's I know of a friend who had a private sale of a sealed matte Mario to a friend that it didn't go public. Like it's not something that a lot of people know about. So these things happen under the radar too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there is not a public sealed matte Mario that I'm aware of. So like even the one that you saw that kind of started the whole thing was a gloss, right? But yeah, if a matte Mario ever came out sealed in almost any condition, it would go nuts. And if it was really nice, it would bring millions of dollars.
Yeah, for those listening, just for context, the matte Mario is the first print one, the test market Mario. The second print is the gloss one, which is the one
which is
that
also
went
test
for,
market. Yeah,
right, which went for like 2.1 or something like that.
So no. So the gloss one that made all the headlines was the one that sold for like 110 grand or
Originally,
whatever. Originally, did it sell a second time? I don't think it
yeah,
did.
it's the same because
It
it was
did?
the investors
Same
that
one?
pooled their money
They
together
they did?
and
Okay.
then they resold it. Yeah.
Because there was another one that was not it was just a really high grade one that sold for close to 2 million, didn't it? That was like a 9.8, but it wasn't a test market.
I
I
thought
might
that
be
was
thinking
the
we
gloss.
might
I thought that was the gloss sticker one.
can't remember. I thought that there was one that was like a third print or something, like wasn't a sticker seal, but it was super super high grade
Oh,
that sold
that
for like
one
2
was the one
million.
that went for God, that was a different one. That was the one that went before this
Okay,
the sticker one.
yeah, but isn't that crazy though? Because like I remember sitting around a poker game at PRGE with these guys, a lot of these big investors and speculators and graders and whatever, and they were all telling us, this is going to be the first $1 million game, and and we all just kind of like, yeah, like maybe, and sure enough, crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are a handful of games like that that I feel like at least warrant it based on rarity.
Sure.
There's been some other sales that are just you shake your head at.
Yeah. It's kind of like
Mario
comics.
64.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, we knew that was weird from the
I mean,
get-go.
they're not fake sales. Like I know a lot of these people that bought them, but they just were overhyped. They
Mhm.
just got in a bidding war with people that, money wasn't an option,
Yeah.
and it was just like I want it,
Yeah. I mean, even though you overspent, they now have the game that was the
Yeah.
notoriety of being that one, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, there's been some weird sales, and usually when that kind of stuff pops up, like I'll get a call. I did this one interview with New York Times, and like, or when I first opened the store, and so now like anytime a big event happens, like I feel like I get called. Hey, saw you in the New York Times. Would you like to quote on this Zelda sale for 800 grand, or this Mario, like from all over, like little radio stations and news networks and whatever. Um, and it's always a little like unnerving because you always feel like you're gonna be taken out of context with whatever you say. And
Sure.
um, but yeah, I feel like long term there's gonna be a lot of it comes down to just the economy in general, right? I mean, there's a lot of upheaval in the world and stuff, so that those types of things are gonna affect markets more than anything. So it just kind of depends on the confidence in the market and how people want to spend their money.
Sure.
But assuming everything else stabilizes, then I definitely feel like there's some big upswings, coming for sealed games especially, and the other stuff.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So kind of circling back, the last question I had here is relating back to your store again.
Hmm.
What has been your favorite part of owning a game store, and then alternatively your least favorite?
Um, hmm. I mean, I've always been a huge people person, so even when like I was in the car business, it's so much about just meeting people and networking. And there's a lot of store owners around the country that get burned out with the day-to-day customers and everything. And there are obviously times where I feel like that as well, but in general, I just love the excitement of meeting people from all over, with shared interests, and then kind of just the art of the deal, I guess, so to speak. The excitement, the thrill of finding a new collection and negotiating it, acquiring it, researching it, selling it. That type of stuff is what gets me going. And and you see me, like I travel all over for that kind of stuff, and I love that. I have a brother who owns some stores, and he's kind of just burned out with it, and I love it still. The downside, I think, is that there are times, because I enjoy so much, like, you just get overwhelmed with how much work there is to do. I mean, there's so many little facets to any type of industry where you're dealing with product, like used products. I mean, the testing, the cleaning, the authenticating, the pricing, um, display, the storage, like all those types of things take up so much time that a lot of times I feel like I'm torn in 10 different directions.
Sure.
And and then you lose an employee, or stuff like that happens, and where you're just, work-life balance is kind of the hardest thing. But part of that is because I still enjoy my job, and I could just stay at home and have a paycheck, but I still enjoy coming in and dealing with things. So yeah, those are really. I like finding new things. When I see something really cool come in the store, like, that gets me excited. But I would say those are it's a little bit general, a little bit generic, but those are the things that kind of really stick out to me.
Well, I can relate to that. Like, I love the whole reason I started with this is the hunt, the treasure hunt, getting a good deal, all that stuff. I love that.
Mhm.
Getting it in the mail, looking at it for half a second, I still feel that joy. And then I'm like, I have to clean this. I have to sort it. I have to
Right.
list it. I have to take pictures, like all that. I hate that stuff. So the idea, theoretically, I'm not saying that I'm interested in doing this, but in a pipe dream, I've always been like, if I opened a store, like, I could be the person working on inventory and then, like, hand off all the other stuff to somebody else would be a dream for me.
Right.
Like, here's all this stuff. I need you to do these things. So I can understand how that could get
Well, it's,
overwhelming for sure.
if you ask my employees, that probably how they describe what I do here is just buy more crap for them to process.
Sure.
Like, that's probably, and then, but on the flip side, like, I'm like to be the guy who deals with the higher end stuff and selling, and kind of like I call it like the relocating process, like hand picking something, saying, oh, so and so in Georgia has wanted this, like, just the bringing together of person and product, or two people or whatever, is fun for me still. Just the puzzle of it, I guess, is what kind of drives me. But yeah, I've done it all, and the sitting down and cleaning and testing, 100 games is a drag. Like, I
Yeah.
sit down, and after 5, I'm just like, I just
Let's do this podcast thing. I'm done playing.
yeah, exactly.
I
I
was
have so
sitting here
much
thinking,
gear in
I
my
love that part. I love, like, getting the game home and cleaning it and, like, putting it in the cartridge slot for the first time. But then I was like, but that's one game that I just picked up.
Briar, do I have a
When you
job
got,
for
like,
you, bud?
Yeah, right. I can see getting
you have,
a
like,
lot of 100 games and having to do all of them. Could get a little
yeah, I
tedious.
mean, we'll get, there are times where I'll buy a collection, with 2,000 or 3,000 items or more, and it's all of a sudden you're looking at, okay, in 2 to 3 months we'll hopefully have this process. I have stuff in my garage at home that I bought years ago that has just it all gets cherry picked, right? You deal with the fun, exciting stuff,
Mhm.
and then the mediocre stuff kind of takes a few months, and then all that kind of the not so fun stuff, the stuff that actually takes work, kind of just sits and piles up, and then you have 10 years worth of it. And it's still valuable to some degree, but you made your money back, you made your profit on all the top 80%, and then you have these totes and totes of $4 items, and then you find some sucker at the store to say, here, I've got this one expensive item, and then here's all the rest. Like,
Here's a
that's
bunch of
really how you do
Skylanders.
it.
He's jabbing me right now. Like, I don't
Here's a
think
bunch of Skylanders and Wii boards. Like,
I brought in a carload worth of stuff that had been sitting in my garage for at least a few years. I think Josh got about 500. Let's be real though. Like, they got a good deal on that stuff. hopefully they
Well, it's a
can.
good deal, but but the reality is like you did
I wanted to get. I
already.
wanted
Like,
to get rid of it. I
yeah,
was done with
but
it.
I'll cherry pick the best stuff, sell it really quick, hopefully
Mhm.
get my money back, and then just see how stuff goes. But the reality is, there will be some of that stuff I'll have in a year or two from now,
Sure.
just by default, like just because we haven't got to it, and then another fun, sexy lot comes in 2 weeks from now, and I'm like, ooh, shiny new things, let's
Mhm.
deal with those. And um,
I relate to
it,
this so hard.
it's
Funny.
like if you could put a camera on me throughout the day and see all the stuff that I step over or walk by or pick up and put down
Drop your phone.
and never complete, yeah, whatever. And like see all the stuff that has just been there and needs to be dealt with, like it blow your mind. I mean, there's so much work to be done that it'll never be completed. It's
Will
like,
you
oh,
let
it's
me?
not like hoarder level, but it's like it almost feels like that,
Yeah, well, I can relate to that too. The difference between hoarding and collecting is just how it's displayed, right? Like that's the
Right,
whole
and
thing.
how clean it, like, yeah. But I mean, the reality is, I have the store here. It's about 2,600 square feet, pretty good sized store. I have a 22 by 22 garage at my place that is packed, like floor to ceiling almost. I have a barn that doesn't have that much in it, but a huge barn that has some just stuff from over the years. And I'm looking at getting more space in the complex here to spread out, so I feel like I can process it all.
Hmm.
It's
Well,
never ending.
I feel thankful and also kind of angry that Josh let me peek into the back room and kind of he's like, yeah, here's this box of like complete in box, some super minty NES games and stuff. Go ahead and look through it, and I'm just like, I want this, I want this, I want this, because I
Yeah.
collect. So the whole purpose for me to do this flipping stuff is so I can collect more. So like I had this stack of games. I was only able to get like 4 or 5 of them realistically, with the credit from the trade and stuff like that. But
You could have got more, but
I
you could have got way more.
could have, yes.
You
My
still
wife would
can, in
not have been
fact.
happy. Yes, my wife would not have been happy. Josh is like, yeah, you totally could with with that
Yeah,
sale from the things and
let's
uh,
go.
he's like, all the stuff you want, you can have. Let's get it on the book.
Well, if you wait long enough, I'll be like, wait till you see what I got in
Oh
today.
no. If that happens, I have to like realistically, I can't afford to just spend a bunch of cash, so I would have to scrounge up some trade stuff that
Yeah.
you would get excited about to
Well,
trade.
are you gonna come down to the show next week?
I can't. I think I mentioned I have a funeral to go to up in
Oh,
Seattle.
that's right. That's
So
right.
I would have liked to. So that's a good segue. So Josh, tell us about the event that you got coming.
So, Sidequest Expo, first year being branded Sidequest Expo, um, is next weekend. It's at the Portland Doubletree Hotel, the 18th and 19th. So Saturday, Sunday, doors open at 10. We have two pretty good sized rooms filled with video games, collectibles, toys, comics, mostly video games. You'll have like some vendors with some toys, maybe some comics, some playing cards and stuff like that. But this was originally a sister show of Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which I'm involved with as well, which is probably the best show in the country for retro video games.
Hmm.
And it's here in Portland, and it's grown. It's huge now. And they started a little swap meet. I don't even remember, probably 7 or 8 years ago now. That was just a secondary event. It was just kind of bring it back to the roots type thing, where it's just people setting up tables, trade night type stuff. And it was going really well, but they just kind of ran out of time to deal with it. So as they wanted to shut it down, the community really wasn't too happy about it because it was a great little show, and so they asked me to step in and take over. And after a handful of years doing that, this year we decided to just fully transition it over to SideQuest Expo, and I'm helping them on the board with the big show. So yeah, it's a great show. I mean, it's not super small. I mean, we have probably 1,000, 1,200 people show up, and people come from from all over, really.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean it's growing. It's definitely in the growth stage now.
So, do they encourage? Because for Portland Retro Game Expo, they kind of limit people to bringing like one bag worth of stuff if they're going to trade things. Is that kind of
Yeah.
how this goes too, or do you guys encourage trades and stuff?
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with trades. What I don't like is people, bringing suitcases worth of stuff and not paying to set up as a vendor, because
Oh, yeah, sure.
that's the, people are paying hundreds of dollars to set up and to get the space, and we have waiting lists for people to get in. So what we don't want is to have like a mobile vendor, basically.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with someone bringing in a backpack full of stuff, or we have sometimes people will set up a larger trade, with one of the vendors, but they just keep it outside the sale,
Mhm.
instead of just everyone walking around with a roller bag, just because it's packed in there.
Mhm. Makes
But
sense.
yeah, I have no problem with people. I mean, it's truly is a buy sell trade event. I mean, and we get people trading stuff into our booth. And some vendors don't like to focus on it during the show, but we always enjoy it. We always love it. I mean, we're not going to turn people away. And but yeah, a backpack or so. If you can kind of tell, like, we had a guy a few years ago show up and he's like wanted to buy a table. I was like, he just showed up to the door like day of and it's like, hey, how much for a table? And I was like, "This- we're sold out, man." And he's like, oh. So he has like two suitcases behind him. And I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work, bud. Like, that's just kind of like that's just gonna piss off all the vendors. So like, if you want to grab a backpack full and go around and then go get some more, whatever, but have
Sure.
some respect for the process a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what are your thoughts on all this, Briar? This is a whole world that.
There's a whole world that I'm like completely unfamiliar with. I've only been a customer to a retro gaming store. I've never really seen behind the curtain. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's
For
not
Josh,
always as pretty behind the curtain.
for Josh's context, Briar is like he's like the hardware expert in my brain. Like he's very much the um setting up like a realistic or an emulation station or whatever it is, and
Hmm.
he's much better with the hardware stuff than I am, for sure. So whenever we're talking about things like he put on the news, or I guess we are talking about PC Engine stuff, but the Mister and things like that is
Hmm.
totally Briar's wheelhouse, which is super
We
cool.
don't we don't usually talk about emulation here.
Yeah,
No.
I started out
Well,
that way. I started out that way where I was like, "Nope, it's gotta be, we don't wanna go illegal, all that stuff." But then I started to kind of open as starting the podcast with Briar, my mind opened up because there's so much stuff out there that's just inaccessible, whether it's
right.
the price or it's not re-released or, like, the only way to get something is to have this really expensive cartridge, CD, whatever. So, like,
Hmm.
in the preservation experience side, it's like it's kind of unfair to keep it locked away like that. So I understand people emulating
Right.
and things a little bit more now than I used to, for sure.
Especially like
Yeah. No.
arcade stuff where there's like really
Yeah.
no other way to play it.
No, and I'm just jabbing at you a little bit, but like we have to avoid, just because as a business, we'll get
Sure.
under or whatever slapping the lawsuit on us. But
Yeah.
in general, like it's not a big deal when we do, like, for the show. In fact, I just sent out an email today because the vendors are like, well, what can we bring? What can we not bring? And we typically kind of draw the line, like with reproductions. If it's like a fan translation, we didn't get it released in the U.S., like that's totally cool. Like, you want to bring like Terranigma over, make it English, version of it. If it's a homebrew, like, that's not a big deal. But if it's a copy of Earthbound, that is made to look authentic or being sold as authentic, then that kind of draw that we have to draw the line there
Sure.
with it, just because we don't want people to get deceived and screwed over.
Pokemon
Um,
games and all that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's rampant in the community. And it's one thing to like have it for personal use, but as a store or business, like, people don't know how to authenticate stuff, and there are stores around the country that sometimes are less than honest about it, and they'll have a $20 Chinese copy of Mario 64 for $55, and that's so
Yeah.
we draw the line there. But personal use stuff, yeah, go for it.
That's why I only buy stuff with teeth marks on it, so I know it's authentic.
Yeah, well, he's got some controllers,
Yeah, perfect.
So I had an idea, Briar. Josh, normally we do news first, and then we talk about the game and stuff. But to respect your time, maybe we want to do Zelda first, and then if he wants to dip out before we do news, maybe.
I'm good.
Or if you want to, you want to just
I'm good.
talk about some of the
Yeah.
news? All right, let's do it.
Yeah,
Do
whatever.
There's not a ton of news, anyways. So it should go pretty quick. I saw that the PlayStation 3, which I consider sort of retro. I mean, it's 15 years old at this point. It got a new software update? Question mark for the PS3.
You
Really?
can't
So
call
is that-
something retro that plays Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, but I mean, it also plays PS1, so come on.
That's true.
I mean,
only an
they'll play
emulation, though.
PS1 games. No, well,
The OG
depends on the
PS3s.
console. Yeah,
There's
the OG
what,
PS.
two
yeah.
versions of them that play.
There's two versions that'll play PS1, PS2. It has hardware in there.
Oh, okay.
The glossy
but
ones.
yeah.
The glossy ones. The
ones that broke.
honking-
The ones that all...
They weren't too bad. It's the 20 and 40 gig. Like, it has the 4 ports in the front.
What I remember
They're pretty valuable
specifically
now.
about those PS3s is when they first originally released the price for those. They were like
Oh,
what,
yeah.
$5.99 and $6.99 before they brought them down.
Yeah,
They were-
I remember standing in line thinking, am I really standing in line to pay $600 for a fucking PlayStation?
Right?
It's wild.
I mean, but the original, the fully backwards compatible ones are still $300-400.
Yeah.
They're
This is they all
they're hard
broke.
to find.
There's
Yeah,
none-
I mean,
none of-
yeah, I mean, there's not a great fix for those. We get asked to repair them all the time, and unless you reball it, there's just not a good fix for it.
The
I need to be
Xbox
revolved,
360 got all the bad press for all their original systems breaking, but the PS3
Yeah.
was just as bad. It just took longer. But they all
It took
broke.
longer. But let's be honest, 360 was pretty bad too.
It was really bad.
I
It had like a
won't even
100% failure rate.
Yeah, I mean, I won't buy them. I won't buy the original models for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are the so-called slim models holding up better over time?
Yeah, I mean, those are much more reliable for both systems. And yeah, those will still buy and sell because we feel like we can guarantee them for a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up to be reballed?
Yes. Good question.
Yeah, dude. They're no, anyone that chews on their controllers doesn't qualify. You don't qualify, sir.
So what was in the update for the PS3?
Yeah,
It
tell us
just-
about that.
It didn't really do much. Apparently, it said improving system performance.
Oh, okay.
But what
So
people
they were
are saying
fixing
in the-
piracy.
Yeah,
Right.
People are-
I was
people are
just gonna
saying
say.
what people are saying in the comments is like they're having all sorts of software crashes and stuff, and they're like trying to download updates for things, and the system's crashing. And
Oh well, the
whatnot, too,
PlayStation
so-
Store on a PS3 is completely borked. Like it's
Not
Yeah.
even. Yeah, it's not supported at all.
hardly functional.
Yeah.
I remember when was it last year when they announced that they were going to shut down the PlayStation
Yeah,
Store for
that
the
and the-
PS3. So I went
the
in and
Vita
I
and all
tried
that.
to download a bunch of stuff, thinking this is going to be like my last chance, and it was laborious. It was really hard to do.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But hey,
So-
if they get people to do the updates, then they can, see if their systems are hacked or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh.
I did
interesting.
read one place where they said that it has become pretty trivial to rip the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 1 BIOS off of a PlayStation 3. And there was some conjecture that this was to patch that, but apparently it's still just as easy. So
Wild.
Okay. I do
Well-
consider it. Well, it's hard. I don't know if I consider that retro, but it's definitely in that era.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you define as retro at this point, Josh?
I mean,
We always have this discussion.
yeah. So I mean, what I don't have an exact definition, but it's obviously like two or three generations is when I start feeling like it's retro.
If it's got an HDMI port, it's not retro.
Gosh, I mean, some of those are almost 20 years old, right?
I mean,
Not quite.
the Wii, which was around the same point as the PS3, doesn't have an HDMI cable.
Yeah, but
that's because they
Nintendo.
chose not to. Yeah.
And also, that's not true.
mean-
The Wii did eventually get a HDMI port.
The Wii did?
Built in?
Yeah, that
never
red
seen
one.
one of those.
The
in
red
black?
one, the mini one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was. But nobody likes that one.
It's got an HDMI port.
Yeah. Well, that one's not retro, but the Wii, regular Wii's are.
The ones that can
There
play
we go,
GameCube
there.
games.
Yeah. I
It has
mean,
GameCube controller ports.
yeah.
Speaking of, I don't know, Nintendo, 1080 snowboarding, which this is not really news, but it turned 25, and it is also
Yeah.
coming out on the Switch Online expansion pack later this year.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
the 1080,
Remastered, I hope.
That'd be nice.
who knows?
I
Not-
mean,
It's just the expansion pack, I think. So I think it's just going to be mostly a
Yeah.
port.
They are
I mean,
higher
the
res
64
though on
games.
it,
Yeah,
right?
they are.
I specifically, and sorry, the reason that I put this on here is because I had this love and visceral memory of playing 1080 snowboarding and getting like adrenaline rushes playing that game on
That
the
game was
N64.
phenomenal for the day. It was unbelievable. It looked so good.
Right. They haven't aged well, though.
No,
You
I
gotta
talk
you gotta
about that all
play
the time.
N64 games on a CRT. It just looks awful on a
Yeah.
current monitor. It's just bad.
Yeah, we deal with that a lot in store with people, trying to buy these old systems and they have no way to play them. And you can buy cheap adapters that will make it functional, but you end up spending quite a bit of money to make it look somewhat authentic on a newer TV.
Actually, speaking of which, this is a news story I forgot to put on the notes, is that the N64 Digital, which is a mod for the N64, they just announced that this is going to be the last batch that they make that has an analog output, because the chips that they use to make that analog output happen are going end of life. They're not going to be able to get them anymore. So moving forward, the N64 Digital will only have an N64 port. You won't be able to hook it up with RGB and all that stuff, which really stinks, because that thing, it actually helps the N64 quite a bit, because it removes that blurring filter that is on top of like every N64 game, and it really sharpens it up quite a bit. So if anybody's looking for one of those, I think it's Pixel FX is the name of the company, and their last batch of those is coming out very soon.
I can't even remember what's the adapter that I got that plays that turns all the like analog stuff into digital.
RetroTank?
Yes. It's still a decent option, and they have the 5X and all that stuff now. So
Yeah, the 5X is phenomenal. But what this thing does though is it really cleans up the signal and gives you a much sharper signal, because you're just plugging in composites into your RetroTank, right?
sure,
The yellow cable.
Or S Video.
This video's pretty good.
Do either one of you have CRTs still?
Yeah, yeah.
Briar does.
I actually just took it out of my office, because between the RetroTank and the Mister, the CRT like shadow mask filters and everything that they can put on modern displays, I feel like it's just close enough that it's time to get the CRT out of my office.
You'll have to come get a CRT from me. You can be a real gamer.
I theoretically, the big idea is once we can get a bigger house and I have more space, then I want to get a CRT. But right now, the whole reason why I go analog systems is because they do a pretty decent job of turning all that stuff into digital feed for like
Yeah.
Yeah,
whatever.
great.
So I have the analog SNES, Genesis, Analog Pocket, all that stuff. So
Yeah, those are great.
I'm hoping eventually they'll come out with an N64 one, but I'm not gonna hold my breath too hard. Who knows? Speaking of, I don't know, Dreamcast. We mentioned Dreamcast, right? Impact Wrestling, which I don't watch wrestling, but they used a Dreamcast in one of their matches as like a prop. So
Like a
dude
chair? Like,
knocked.
did somebody get beat by a Dreamcast?
He
no.
knocked a dude over the head with a Dreamcast.
That was a poor choice. They should have gone with something like a PS5 or a Sega Saturn.
Sega
Something
Saturn.
with some heft to it. You know? The Dreamcast is a little guy.
Got this little thing.
Throw a
The
new
dude-
on at him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, his opponent like did the that thing, the flip off
Oh.
thing, and
How
so
rude.
then he hit the Dreamcast button, and the Dreamcast just goes whoop, like slowly opens. I don't know. I thought it was funny. There's a clip in that.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's good to see the
name-
Dreamcast getting some love, even if it's beating somebody over
I
the head with it.
mean, it's really too bad. I mean, that was a great system.
Yeah.
Still making games for it.
Yeah. Speaking of emulation, that kind of partially had an impact on the ruining of that system.
That was
Yeah,
piracy.
they all went over to 360. Most of the crew there.
We're happy that Sega still makes games, though. To be honest,
For sure. They make great games right now. They're kind of having like a renaissance over there.
Street Fighter VR. I don't know if you checked this out, Briar. Street Fighter VR arcade cabinets coming to Japan.
Yeah.
They're debuting and testing them right now. I watched the little video.
Wow.
It's like first person Street Fighter where you're fighting, Ryu or Zangief or whoever. It's kind of terrifying to watch.
Did
To
you
be honest,
guys happen to buy the Street Fighter? I think it was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the Switch. It was like real early on in the Switch, and it had a mode called Way of the Hadoken, where you could use the Switch controllers to like throw Hadokens.
Yeah, I've seen that. I don't know if I own that, but I played that in the store.
Yeah, that's what I imagine this is going to be like, kind of crappy.
Right.
I don't know.
hopefully it's better than that.
There's a little clip in the notes of the video, and it's
Yeah.
like it looks like Street Fighter 5 graphics, but in VR.
Yeah, but
So-
like I don't know. Maybe they're going to figure out how to make a fighting game in VR, but
It's an
We'll see.
arcade game, so it's like it's going to be kind of a limit. Apparently, it's $8 or $9 for a play.
yeah, $8 or $9 per play, and it's like really limited release. Like they're not.
Sure. Yeah.
Where has it? Is it out already? Or is it
Uh,
just
they're-
like
no.
They're testing it right
testing
now.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. So the next test apparently is in April. And
You might have to import one of those over here.
oh god.
Well, they were testing
You-
it on
you
an
speak-
HTC Vive, so it's like there's no reason really they couldn't just release this on like Steam or something.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody pulls the file.
Sure they will.
I'd rather they just
That's good
sell it.
content right there.
I mean, yeah. Why can't it go to home consoles? Why just arcades? Who knows? Maybe they want to like fully test it and everything, make sure people
Use
don't
some of
get
that
sick.
Street Fighter dual money to send it over.
That's the mobile game, right?
Yeah,
It hasn't released yet, right? Because I was
It's
actually
out.
pretty excited for
it's
that.
out.
Oh, is
came
it?
out, yeah, Capcom Cup. They announced the date. It's out now. I have it on my phone.
I'm writing it down. What is it called? Street Fighter
Dual.
Duel.
It's a
Is it
gacha
good?
game. No,
Is it good?
no.
No. Well, I like gacha games. I'm over here
Oh,
playing
okay,
Raid
maybe you'll
Shadow
like it.
Legends for 2 years.
All right, maybe you'll like
Fine,
it.
I'll check it out. I'll give you the like gacha game perspective. Josh, have you ever heard of Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighters?
No, I haven't.
No. So it was a mostly not American game, and it's like an arcade experience, like one of those sit down kind of like cabin, not like a
Okay.
full enclosure, but it was like one that you sit down, almost like an old Star Wars machine. And so somebody found a cabinet from the Sega World Sydney amusement park, and it didn't have a Western port. It was mostly a Japan thing, but that one cabinet has this like really awful voiceover. It's just like terrible. Like Sonic sounds like Robotnik and Robotnik sounds like Sonic. But they found the cabinet and the dude ripped the ROM. So you can actually go and you can load it on a MAME emulator and you can play this now. It's just this weird kind of Sega shooter arcade type game.
Okay.
I don't know. Kind of
Sega's so messed
Interesting.
up.
I think I did hear something about that.
How many Sega collections have they put out on like every console, but they don't put out stuff like this? Like, why is it stuff like this on Sega collections?
stuff we've never played before.
Yeah, that'd be
Because
awesome.
it would require work.
I mean, this guy ripped the ROM and then put it on MAME. Sega couldn't do that work.
probably it sounds like it's not a great game. So
Yeah, but like it's better than getting Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2 for the
Yeah.
40th time. Or in addition to Sonic 1 and 2 for the 40th time. It'd be nice to get
Right.
like some weird shit.
Yeah. I don't know.
I was
kinda
never a
like
big Sega guy.
No?
I wasn't either.
No.
Briar was.
I was huge. It was
I
so
just,
edgy.
you know,
it was so cool.
I can tell. You have that vibe
Yeah.
with your Zelda light in the back.
The vibe. What does that mean?
You can mean whatever you want it to mean.
I got a
the
leather
beauty
jacket.
of it.
I play Sega.
Yeah.
Sega does what
Triforce.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
The Triforce in the background. No, typically, someone just plays what their parents buy them, right? So I didn't really have many chances to play a lot of Sega stuff.
Sure.
Sonic would frustrate me too. Like, it was so fast.
Yeah, it is.
It's so fast.
It's all that blast processing.
You probably had a buddy growing up that had the Sega though, and then you were the Nintendo kid, right? That's usually how it worked
Oh,
out.
absolutely. Yeah. I was like,
that's how it worked out for me.
yeah, you play Mortal Kombat, like, it's better in my system. It's better in my system. Like, okay, let's play Street Fighter then.
Yeah, right. Street Fighter, 3 buttons, great, awesome, so good.
Yeah, exactly. That was always my argument. Then we go play Pogs or something.
This isn't really news, but there was a story on Time Extension about Digital Eclipse, which we've been talking about. Digital Eclipse, they've been topical. They've been doing a bunch of remakes and
that
really
Atari
good stuff.
collection, right?
The Atari 50th as well as
God,
the
that is amazing. Why can't somebody do that for Sega?
Yeah.
Put some
They probably,
dumbass Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighters in that.
put Sega CD on there and whatnot. But
didn't they do? Did they do Turtles? Or?
Yes,
so,
they did.
yeah.
Was it Shredder's Revenge or the other one?
No, the collection.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Chris Kohler. I think Chris Kohler. That was one of his projects.
Gotcha.
Maybe.
But since they've been doing a lot of really good retro stuff, and there was a story that came out about them working on Lilo and Stitch as a Disney licensed product for the Game Boy Advance. And the story is basically that they liked Metal Slug, and they wanted to make a Metal Slug Lilo and Stitch game. And so, but they were afraid pretty much. So Disney was just like, go make a game. We're going to sell it. It's a Disney product. We don't care. Make the game. But they were nervous presenting this to Disney. They were like, I don't know if they're going to do this. It's totally going to get canceled. But the higher ups at Disney were like, this is amazing. This is great. Print it, because it's like violence.
Wow.
It's like Stitch is running around with a blaster, like shooting aliens and all this stuff. And it turned out that I had a copy in a bin in my garage, and I didn't know that it was a great game. And so it got 8s and 9s in reviews.
Yeah.
So I popped it in and I started playing. It's actually really fun. Really cool. It's like a Metal Slug Disney. You can get it for less than $5.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, we have that in the store, I think.
Keep my eye open for it.
You should try it. It's pretty cool. I thought that was kind of a fun story. Not really news, but it just kind of surprised me.
Now that I got the Pocket too, I'm constantly looking for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance cartridges.
I'll send you this one because I have a complete copy on the way from eBay that I got for like $30.
Dang, dude.
I like cardboard. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Did you check my website first, jerk?
I looked around. Do you have a complete copy of that?
I don't know.
Probably
not.
Probably has a sealed copy somewhere.
Maybe. The guys at Digital Eclipse are cool. If it's the same people, I think that they are right down there in California by the Video Game History Foundation. And I did some charity work with them, and I think they were just building out their new location. And then I'm pretty sure Chris Kohler, who was with Kotaku before, is working with them now. Good guy.
That's cool.
Yeah, those collections are great.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a lot of good stuff right now.
That Atari collection is something else, though. It's like unreal. They have like video interviews of like the people who worked on the games. Like and they go in deep, like they're talking about like drug use in the office and like all sorts of fun stuff. The stuff you want to know about Atari.
The fun stuff.
I mean, you kind of had to back then, right? Because there's all this talk
There was
about
pressure like internally in the studio. Yeah.
Overnights
peer
and
pressure.
sleeping in the office and all that stuff.
That's where they got their creativity from.
It's like the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yellow Submarines, Eggman.
Right.
So you got the next couple, Briar?
Oh yeah, Retro Gaming Cables just released the Dreamcast component cable. So this is actually a pretty cool cable. It's one cable that you plug into your Dreamcast. It supports 480i to 480p, but you got to plug it into a scaler or a monitor that can, take a 480p signal, like a RetroTink. But it's actually powered by RetroTink. Mike Chi actually helped work on this thing. It's pretty cool because Dreamcast is a little funny. Is it does have that like high res mode that you used to have to use a VGA cable and a VGA monitor for, like when the console was new. But that does offer a very sharp picture that you can use for modern TVs, and this kind of unlocks that, but also can be used to power like a CRT television. So it's like one cable that does it all, and it's component video, which is very easy to handle. You don't have to like start getting into SCART and all that.
Does it go two ways?
What do you mean two ways?
Like you can plug the HDMI into like an HDMI console and play.
It's not
on a
HDMI
CRT.
cable. It's a component cable.
Component.
So it's the one with the red, green, and blue.
Right, but I mean the other end is an HDMI cable.
No, that plugs into the console. I can see what you're saying. It kind of looks like an HDMI cable. It's not. It plugs into the Dreamcast.
Oh, got it. It's a proprietary cable. Got it.
Yeah.
I haven't messed with.
Yeah,
the back
that's why
of the Dreamcast
Dreamcast is retro, because it's not HDMI.
It looks very close.
Yeah, it does kind of look like it's bigger.
It's bigger and it's shaped differently.
Yeah, I'm currently using. I think it's. Hold on, I'll get it.
Briar's also bigger and shaped differently. So
Yeah, I mean, he's also more retro.
this is true.
I use this thing on my Dreamcast. It's called the Toro. It's made by some guys. I think they're out of the Ukraine actually, but they're the Behar brothers, and it's got all sorts of switches on it, and it is confusing. I have to read the manual every time I hook it up.
Isn't it a different language too, or
No, it's well translated. The manual's good. It's just there's a lot to it, but it produces a good picture. But I'm definitely ordering this retro gaming cable.
nice?
PC Engine CD core was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I own a Dreamcast and I haven't ever hooked it up.
That's
Well, we
damn
know
shame.
that because you think it's HDMI.
Yeah, right. I kind of wish that you had
like-
tried with an HDMI cable.
I can like see it right now.
Yeah. And
I have an old 720p plasma that has composite,
Yeah.
RGB, has all that stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
yeah, perfect.
The PC Engine CD core released for the Analog Pocket, which is awesome because Rondo of Blood is now playable on the PC Engine CD.
Great game.
I'm sorry, Analog Pocket. Plus, all the other PC Engine CD games and TurboGrafx CD games.
Yeah, trying to play that stuff on original hardware is so expensive.
Yeah.
So expensive. I mean, Turbo CD, the adapters, the cards. I mean, just you're into $1,000 in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I started collecting a little bit of TurboGrafx stuff because they said that there was going to be ability to play on the Analog Pocket, and they still it's still been pre-ordered. I still haven't gotten my adapters yet.
Oh, the actual hardware adapter. Yeah.
It's been years. Yeah. At this point,
Yeah,
from when they
that's
announced
Analog's
it. to now.
MO.
Yeah, I'm just sitting on these games that I'd love to play.
Konami reportedly has a massive E3 planned, and they reference Castlevania and Metal Gear. So they're going to be at E3,
Okay.
and they're talking Castlevania and Metal Gear, which is pretty interesting, actually. For a
Yeah,
Who's
company
not? Yeah. So
Well-
Nintendo's not going, Sony's not going, Xbox isn't going.
Yeah, but if I get a new Castlevania, I don't care about any of the rest
Right.
of them.
The only E3 I went to was the last one in person.
Yeah. Which year was that? Was that
yeah.
2018?
I think it was 18 or 19, probably.
19?
I think that was the last. I think that was the last one that they had.
I was wondering if you talked about this on it because is the other DCP podcast, is it called Sidequest?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk about that. I'll have my lawyer contact you.
If they create a new Castlevania game, like with all of the Dark Souls stuff that's been going on, like I don't know, a lot of people just consider that like a modern day Castlevania anyway. So it'd be amazing to like recreate the first Castlevania game as a Dark Souls kind of type of game, like go through and fight like Frankenstein and Medusa and Dracula.
Have it like really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean I think the first Castlevania game is pretty difficult.
Well, not like Dark Souls.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty hard.
I mean, I'm sure Konami will just end up making a new like poker machine or something instead.
Yeah, that could happen. It's like this is gonna be a Castlevania themed pachinko machine. Awesome.
Yeah. Exactly.
How did Lord of Shadows, the like PS3 game, did that play as a third person type
game? Yeah, it was
game?
third person. It was like the older God of War games where it's kind of like a lot of swinging huge things.
And then there was the like Curse of Darkness and the PS2 ones and stuff, which are a little bit more highly regarded than the PS3 ones, but there really hasn't been a great newer Castlevania game in a while.
The DS ones were pretty well regarded, right?
Oh, true. But I mean, those were basically true to the 16-bit era, though.
They were more like the PS1 game. What was the PS1 game called?
Symphony of the Night?
Symphony of the Night,
Yep.
Yeah. Like Metroidvanias.
You didn't like this stuff on Switch?
I never got to play it. Are you talking about that like downloadable title? Oh, no. The Castlevania Collection?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that. That's good.
You have that?
Yeah.
I think I have the limited run Castlevania Collection.
Yeah, they sell it at Best Buy too.
That's what that is? Okay. I haven't opened it.
Yeah. They made a second Castlevania Collection as well with all the advanced games or the Game Boy Advance games.
Oh, right. I can't remember if any of those games are coming. I don't think they are to the Switch Online expansion pack stuff. I don't think any of the Castlevania games are.
You know what's funny is Konami hasn't released any games for the Nintendo side of the Switch Online, but they did release Genesis games on the Genesis side of it. So like Bloodlines is on the Switch in the Nintendo Switch Online Genesis thing, but none of the other Castlevania games are anywhere to be found. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Probably because they're selling them on the Switch in the Castlevania collection.
True.
Yeah.
Apparently, Wii U consoles can be bricked by not turning them on for long periods of time. There's like a NAND corruption issue that can be unfixable if the NAND memory has not been backed up in a while, which happens automatically when you turn on a Wii U. So it might be worth plugging that thing in once every couple of months just to make sure it still works.
Mine's been sitting for a long time.
Yeah. Apparently, they're shit in the bed pretty early, and those are not that old, right? They were. When did the Switch come out? 2016, 17.
Was it 2012 when the Wii U came out?
Must have been about there.
Yep, November 2012. Hey.
So right. Plug in your Wii U if you don't want it to die on you.
That's I have the Zelda one. It's out there. I just have not plugged it in a long time. Speaking of Zelda,
they've also had issues. Yeah, they've also had issues with like the analog sticks just going bad.
Really?
Breaking down. Yeah, just how they kind of turn all sticky.
Yeah. Oh, like the rubber is like kind of rotting.
That. Yeah.
I'd shoot through the cables before that happens.
Oh gosh. Yeah. You.
Good rubber. So the game of the week, Legend of Zelda, as picked by Josh. Josh gave me like 3 options. He said Zelda 1, Zelda 2, or Bad News Baseball. Like I'm looking out. I've never played Bad News Baseball, so that'll be an interesting one to eventually play. But Legend of Zelda, you guys, you're wearing the Legend of Zelda hat. Where'd you get
That's
that
right.
hat?
Vintage. This is a vintage trucker hat, man.
That is
Back
Where'd
in
you?
the '80s.
awesome.
It's not like a
This
new
came in.
vintage.
No, this is old. It's got like a couple of the adjustments in the back are missing and everything. I've kind of got into collecting vintage hats. I probably have 8 or 9, 10 of them. So that's one thing that I've gotten into.
Nice. Is that
But yeah,
related to the hair situation?
no, definitely not.
What is with you and hair? You're always calling it out.
I mean, I'm doing a lot better than
Yeah.
my friend.
That is
So
a full head of hair.
so
He's just in denial. It's fine. I'm not gonna say anymore. So I have still
anyway,
never
thanks
beat.
for inviting me.
I still had never beat this game.
You never beat Zelda?
No.
Is it
It's
because
funny.
your controller stopped working? I mean,
Speaking of controllers, I will say I played it on the Switch Online because you can get it. They also have the like special edition with the extras and stuff. I do not recommend using the Pro controller for the Switch. It is not great. There's a lot of, even using the control pad, like trying to use left and right, there's a lot of diagonal movement that happens. It was really frustrating for me. But growing up with Zelda, I was never that good and could never beat them because they were always too hard for me. But I love Zelda at the same time. It's weird. I like own most of the games complete in box, and I like collecting them. I like the story. I like the air about Zelda. I just have a hard time beating them. I did beat Link to the Past, whatever it was 2 years ago, but that's really the only Zelda game I've ever beat.
challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
really
trying to.
It's not a long game. I think this time I played through it. I beat it in it was a day. I played it for kind of the day. And
so do you guys load up on all the power ups before you hit the first dungeon or what?
I think the last time I played, a lot of times I just will like to go and get like the blue ring first, and I don't know, go play. I like to go gamble, so I'll go gamble, and then get you figure out the tricks with the gambling, and then go get the blue ring first, so you're a lot more powerful, right? So, but
is that what gives you the white outfit?
No, I think it increases your toughness, right? So
Okay.
I think you just like take 2 hits for everything, if I remember correctly. But it's like 255 rupees, and then
250. Yeah.
But that's something that you can, do if you just know where to go collect. You got to go get a candle, get a few heart containers, get some bombs. But a lot of times I just like to play it straight through. I know some guys will, go through and, no sword and all that crap, but no. I like to watch that, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
No, that takes a level of commitment to learning a game that I am not willing to put in.
Yeah. I mean, usually when I go boot it up, it's like, oh, I remember what's on this map. Let me see if I can get it. It's not like I have a real pattern. Just, oh, I know where this is, so I'm going to burn this bush or blow up this wall or whatever.
That is something I actually forgot about this game until I played through it. For this playthrough, was that how much hidden stuff there is and how much you just got to know which bush to burn or which rock to move, right? To just know like where to get pretty important stuff. Which I don't know. Like I was kind of thinking that there was no such thing as Nintendo Power, but you guys said there was like a guide at the time. So I wonder how much of that was just like, well, we can put it in the guide. It's not like that hard to find.
I mean, I don't remember using the guide for it, but I'd never had a Nintendo Power subscription, so
no, neither did I.
But I've seen them, and there's definitely pretty good playthroughs on it.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of stuff in that game that you can get by, just outside castles, right? And a lot of power ups, and heart containers, and extra bombs, and candles, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting to me when I was researching kind of the notes for this is that normally when we start talking about a game, Briar does I do a synopsis on like what the game's about, how it plays, all that stuff. With Zelda, you don't really need to do that because it's so infamous. Most people have played some sort of Zelda,
Yeah.
but at the time when they were designing this, Miyamoto and the people that were working on it were worried. They were worried that people wouldn't understand because it was such a different type of game at the time.
It
There
was
really wasn't.
unbelievable. It was
Yeah.
so like wild. Like it really felt like you had all the freedom in the world. You could just do anything. It gives you very little direction at the beginning of the game. You're on a screen. There's a cave up the top of the screen. You walk into the cave. You get a sword, and you're off to the races.
Yeah. Originally in the design, you were going to start with that sword, but they put it in the little cave there to kind of get you going in that questy mindset
Sure.
where you're like, okay, you have to go do this to get the thing, and then listen to them talk, and then continue on. Which is it just was so different. And speaking of working on multiple games, there was a point of I think it was like 5 to 7 months where Miyamoto was working on, and I think some of the team was working on Zelda and Super Mario Brothers at the same time, which is weird to me.
Yeah.
Right.
And in North America, we remember Super Mario Brothers coming out at the same time, and I think Zelda 2, like pretty much right when the console released. But Famicom had already been
Mario
out.
was first. Yeah, Mario was first.
It's just wild to me to think about that stuff back then.
But it's a crazy game too because you really could just. I mean, you can walk anywhere on the map, right from the beginning.
Right.
And there's nothing holding you back. You can enter in a lot of levels if you want. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can just straight skip. I mean, you see the speedrunners do it, but there wasn't anything like that I can remember back then.
No, it was completely original experience. Like, and it just like finding the secrets and the sounds it plays when you find the secret is so like it's so burned into your brain because it was such a thrill to like, oh, I burnt this bush and I found a whole nother dungeon. Like what? Like, what is going on here? Unbelievable.
It is tough to play as kind of a novice. It's tough to play without some sort of information, for sure.
Is it though?
I don't think that's true. I think it's tough if you got a time crunch.
I'm saying.
Oh yeah, if I had like 100 hours to play it and discover all the secrets and stuff.
No,
sure.
like I don't think so. It was pretty intuitive, I thought. I mean, a lot of it was.
I think it's like hard if you're under a time crunch. Like if you don't have a bunch of time to do it and you don't know where anything is. Yeah, it's gonna take some time to figure out where stuff is.
But once you figure out you can burn a bush and bomb walls, you just start playing around, right? And you just start looking for the little cracks in the rock or the bushes that look like, oh, that looks like that should be burnable. At least that's how I remember playing it.
I had just played it, and some of the secrets, like in the walls, there's no, like in the outer world, there's no indication that you can burn or break they're like literally secrets, and you just have to know which tile to bomb or which bush to burn and stuff. And there's no visual indicator at all. In the dungeons, yes, there are because there's like cracks in the walls and stuff, but it's just wild.
We used to just go get bombs, right, and put those bombs in between the lines, right, and just say, okay, we're just gonna go see what we can open up. But luckily, most of that stuff isn't really necessary.
Oh sure.
But you're gonna have to go back and beat it. You got to get to the second quest.
Which, ironically, talking about the second quest, the main reason they put that in the game is because the first playthrough of the game really only took up about half of the RAM or half the memory on the cart, and at the time there was a big to do about like using up all the space they had. So they're like, all right, let's just add a second playthrough.
It was a disc system game at first, wasn't it?
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, for Famicom, yes. For Famicom. It was the first cart on the Nintendo for the North American that had a battery save as well.
Did the Japanese version have the second quest?
That I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, it must though, right?
It must have. Side A, side B, man.
Yeah. It had better sound and stuff too, because it was from the disc.
But the second quest is kind of wild. It's like a big randomizer.
Yeah, It is
a little more
significantly
difficult.
more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the enemies are harder. I think the like the puzzles of the dungeons are longer. But it's still fun. Like it's just a fun game to play around with. Link controls so well. It's like so intuitive to just like point him in the direction, hit with your sword. I forgot there was a wand in this game. I completely forgot about that. And once I got that, I was like, oh, this makes things a lot easier because now I don't have to like have full hearts to shoot at stuff.
Right.
Did
Well,
anybody
like
get caught
you
by one
said,
of
I thought
the?
it was
Was it the
intuitive.
pucka that steals your shield? Is that what it's called?
Oh, the hand, like the big hand thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anybody
yeah.
get caught by that?
All the time.
Wait, does the hand brings you
Or
back
no,
outside, right?
the hand, no, the sun thing, the sun that takes your sword. It kind of looked like a sun.
Oh, okay.
All right.
It was like I thought it was like a tube looking thing that takes your shield away, and if you lose your shield, you just gotta go buy a new one. You don't. There's no way to get it back. You just gotta go buy it.
Remember. What's the one that? Oh no, the sun makes you so you can't use your sword. I think for a while.
Yes.
And then
Yeah,
hand
but
brings
it
you
doesn't
back, and
steal
then
it.
yeah, it doesn't steal it. Just makes you can't use it, and then buying the shield. The little soldier dudes, like the red and blue ones.
Oh yeah.
When you get to those rooms, and they're just that always gave me trouble.
Yeah.
get
Those guys
in
you
there
can
with,
only hit from the side or in the back,
right.
but they like to come at you straight because
Yep.
and they have a big shield. So if you hit them in the shield, you can do no damage. And there's always about 30 or 40 of them per level.
Well, like it increasingly got worse, right?
Yeah.
There's increasingly more of them. But yeah, well, you can start. You can just start on the second quest if you want.
Yeah, put in the
And
Zelda.
and you can just pretend like you beat it.
Yeah.
I don't like to pretend. I just say that I didn't beat it.
Yeah,
But
okay.
So
I do want to go back and play it. So basically I like got all the stuff in the beginning. Like I was using a walkthrough and I got all the secret stuff, like the extra heart
Mhm.
containers, the bombs, all the stuff. And then I like,
Should have been a cruise through at that point.
well, I just didn't have time.
I see.
Yeah. So I want to go back fully equipped now to finish it.
yeah, it doesn't take that long. It literally took me like, I think I was doing the Destiny podcast at like 9 p.m. and I think I started at like 1 p.m. So I had finished by the time I had to do the podcast.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll
It's
go
just
back.
maybe a little more natural, I guess.
Sure. I was a Sega kid, you know.
I mean,
I
he's not over there chewing on his controller. he's actually playing games.
I played no, I mean like growing up I rarely ever beat games to begin with because my whole thing was my mom wouldn't let us buy games for the most part. So we were
Yeah.
only really ever
Just renting them. Yeah.
ever really
Zelda's a tough
allowed
rental.
to rent it for like 2 nights, like and to
Yeah.
beat a Zelda or something in 2 nights was near impossible without some kind of guide.
Yeah. Did you find anything about the golden cartridge? Like why it was golden?
I did not. It
No.
just said like whatever I saw was just like it was one of the only golden cartridges for the NES at the time. I mean the test cartridges are yellow, which
Yeah.
is interesting to me.
Hmm.
Josh has probably come across those before. The
Yeah, I've
very
had
rare,
several of those.
expensive ones.
The Zelda test cartridges.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
really
think
cool.
the last one I sold was like 12 grand or something.
It's just wild.
Wow. It was such
Not
a
a ton
like,
of those.
at the time. There's such a mystique around the golden cartridge because it was the only one, right? Like all the other ones were gray, but the Zelda
Right.
was golden.
Zelda and
like,
Zelda 2, yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
was
the whole
just-
reason why
there's
they
something
put
special.
the whole reason they put the windows in the boxes
The
too.
shield,
so you
yeah.
can see 'em. See the gold there.
Yeah,
I mean, they did that for that punch. They did it for a Punch Out,
Famicom
game.
one, yeah.
The Famicom prize one, but yeah, it's
And-
hard to find. I mean, it's really hard to find really nice condition gold cartridges anymore.
Yeah,
I had one. I had a Zelda 2 recently that was sealed, but it was resealed. But after cracking it, like the carton in there was just immaculate. It was
Yeah.
like when you see one of those in mint condition, it really just kind of blows you away. They're so shiny. You just forget it. And once they're used, they lose a lot of that
Yeah, they lose the
scratched up
luster
and fingerprints. Yeah,
They're black
but when you
underneath,
first
right?
see
The
it,
plastic is actually
yeah,
black.
yep, yeah, just a coating.
they get cracked pretty easy too.
But
Did you know that Zelda was named after Zelda Fitzgerald
Yes.
from the wife of the famous novelist Scott Fitzgerald?
mhm.
I did not know that. I thought that was interesting.
Now you got me looking at the cartridge.
Yeah. Apparently, Zelda was the inspiration for Animal Crossing too.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's just based on communication and stuff, talking to different villagers and all that stuff. Trying to think. Oh, it's funny too because Clu Clu Land is actually on the Nintendo Switch Online, so you can actually see the cover and it looks like a rupee. The Clu Clu Land coins and the Zelda rupees and NES are like identical.
What is Clu Clu Land? Is that an NES game?
It's an NES
Yeah.
black box
I've
game.
Never heard of it.
So they look identical, but the developers claim that it's just coincidence, and I'm like, I don't know. It's pretty close.
Is Clu Clu Land developed by Nintendo?
Yeah, it was one of the original release games.
I've not played. I think it's kind of like a puzzle game. Kind
But
of.
how many games though? What amazes me is how many games do you go back and look at, and you're like, this is just Zelda. This is just a wannabe Zelda. I
Yeah.
mean, from just playing a game. I remember what it was just recently, where even just like you have the bricks and like how you enter a room, like just it looks identical to Zelda, and everything back then was had like something taken. I felt like from that style of game.
A lot of dungeon crawlers now too look a lot like
Yeah.
Zelda dungeons and things like that.
It was just.
Sorry, Brian.
Not only was it like revolutionary, but it was so popular. Like it was one of those games that like every kid had, right? Every kid who had an NES had Zelda. Like it was one of those games you talked about the secrets on the playground or at the lunch table. Like, so to not copy that would be ridiculous, right? Is to not like try and make another one because Nintendo didn't, right? Not till the Super Nintendo. They made Zelda 2, but it was very different.
We actually didn't own Zelda when I was a kid.
That's what happened. That's why you're like that.
Yes, that's why I'm like how I am. Yes.
If you want to see the collector market go crazy, wait until like a mint condition original Zelda seal comes out. I mean, there's like
First print.
First print. There's only 2 or 3 kind of known out there that are super super high grade, and they're just not for sale. Like we've had a couple. I mean, even that one. I think it was like a 9.2 or something, like kind of a low seal. Like that's the one that sold for about $800,000. And a mint one of those would go nuts.
How many different prints are there of the original Zelda? Not counting the classic version.
I don't remember. I think there were 15 or 16 available print runs on some of those early games. I think Mario's the only one to reach that. There's some really subtle minor differences that aren't there's not that significant.
Sure.
But I would say there's probably 6-ish. I don't know.
I can think of 4 or 5 off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
there might be 1 or 2 other ones.
Yeah.
It consisted of 600 separate scenes, like the different screens that you go across. 600. They designed 600 individual screens, not to mention all the other function. It's just wild to me to think, and that's all hand coding, like copying, pasting assets, whatever they were doing back then. But it's just crazy. 97 scenes just in the overworld.
Are you gonna bring up, what if Zelda was a girl, or is that
the canned joke that everybody does? Yeah. I love playing as the main character Zelda. It's great.
Right. So, I mean, if you're gonna talk about Zelda, you have to at least touch on the cartoon a little bit.
Oh, right, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And excuse me, princess. You know the. Do you guys know what I'm referring
I
to?
don't
Super
remember
Mario
this at all.
Show.
No,
There's
I
I don't.
Zelda
remember the show. I don't
cartoon.
remember references
Really
though.
annoying. The whole time, like Link's just trying to get a kiss from Zelda, and something always happens where it doesn't. Of course, she's getting kidnapped or whatever. And then she's got an attitude, and his thing is, well, excuse me, princess. Really
Oh.
annoying voice. Um, Not a super beloved like rendition of
Is that the Captain Lou
Zelda.
Albano show? Or was this a different show?
I don't know.
Didn't it
This
come
is
out around
like,
the same time as the Super Mario Brothers show?
yeah, this is part of that.
It's
Okay.
part of. Okay. Interesting.
Super Mario Bros. So yeah, look it up.
There
We have
wasn't
it
a
playing
lot
in
to
the
love
store
about that
sometimes.
show besides Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah, it was annoying characters, a little bit
Yeah.
different art style.
Yeah, you
But,
guys had the Super Mario Brothers show playing when I was there last
right.
on one of the TVs. Kind of
'Cause
cool.
we're authentic, man.
From the streets.
We're from the streets.
It's a hard
From the streets of Hyrule.
For the longest time, when I thought about this game, it was only the nostalgia of the game that, like, kind of having played it when I was a kid and having loved it so much when I was a kid. But once I moved on to the Super Nintendo and playing, the Super Nintendo, what is it called? Adventures of Link?
Link
What's
to
it
the
called?
world. Link to the
Link
world.
to the Past.
Link to the
Link to the
Past, thank you.
past. Sorry. Link to the past.
Once I played that, it was like I kind of just moved on, and that became my new favorite Zelda game. So I'm actually really excited that we came back and played this, because I don't think I ever would have done it had I not been kind of like encouraged to do so by doing something like this show. And I fell in love again with this game. Like it was really fun. It was really fun to explore it again and to find the secrets I had forgotten so much. Like I mentioned the wand before. I forgot the entire Ganon fight. I forgot so much about it. I forgot that you had to like burn a bush to find a dungeon and like all these things. The game really holds up well.
Well, I'm glad at least two of us went back and played it to prepare
Yeah.
for the
I'm sorry
podcast.
Jay didn't do his homework.
Well, Josh, you said you didn't play it recently.
No, I haven't. I was just trying to give you a hard time.
So what I found
But
interesting,
honestly, I mean, I pick that game up probably once a year. So
yeah, I feel like a lot of people do that. They just go back and play this or another game to remember.
but there were some. I didn't like some of the 3D Zeldas. I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard mixed reviews too. Did you guys know, and you probably did, but Legend of Zelda, the original one, is towards the end of the saga, like the story of Zelda, pretty much.
That timeline is such baloney. It is
You think so?
completely made up after the fact. Like I don't know why they even bothered to make it. Like it's just just accept that it doesn't make any, like, there's no continuation of logic or story between the games.
It's true to life, Briar. It's true to life. What do you mean?
It is like, did you look at it? Like, did you really try and like figure out like the through lines of it? It's completely batshit.
I haven't played all of the games all the way through. I don't know the entire story, so no, I didn't.
No. Just by like reading like a synopsis of it, because there's like the Nintendo official timeline. This is the link you gave me is for Nerd Stash. I'm not real familiar with this website, but Nintendo has their official timeline of when these games happen and how they lead into each other, and it doesn't make any sense. Do you have it in front of you? Can you read the list, the order?
Yeah, so it's like early history, first game would be like Skyward Sword, then Minish Cap and Four Swords. And then when he's a child, you got Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Four Swords, Adventures. Adult timeline is Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks. And then Fallen Hero timeline, Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Oracle Season and Ages.
Oh, this list
Link Between-
sucks. No.
Link Between
This
Worlds,
isn't the Nintendo
Triforce
list.
Heroes. The Legend of Zelda is there in the Fallen Hero timeline, and then Link is directly after.
The official Nintendo list has branching stories. They have branching paths, like alternate histories. Like
Gotcha.
you got to find the Nintendo one. Let me see if I can find it.
I googled, Zelda timeline because I thought it was. So yeah, I don't know all the stuff, but there's really only a handful of titles that happen afterwards in the timeline. Breath of the Wild being one of them, and Tears of the Kingdom, and then Age of Calamity. Which one was Age of Calamity?
That was
That's
after Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's on the Switch, but it's like it's a Musu game. It's not a real Zelda game. Not a real Zelda game.
But
like
still, the majority of the
proprietor.
Zelda games that have come out over the years are
It
precursors.
was like an
to
add-on,
Legend of
right?
Zelda,
Yeah.
which I think is wild. Going backwards.
I don't know. The Zelda's definitely turned into a much different game than I remember as a kid. I mean, it doesn't hit the same feels for me as I always hope it will.
Sure.
No.
I mean, I got a Switch day one, got a collector's edition Zelda, and this is before I had a store, obviously, and it was just so much different than I was hoping for. It's fun. It's a great game. It's gorgeous, but it's so complicated.
It is complicated.
Or it can be. Yeah, it can be really complicated.
It does, at least at the beginning, give you that same feel where, like, instead of walking into the cave at the first beginning of the game, you're walking out of a cave and you're seeing this expansive world in front of you, and you're just like encouraged to go explore it. I think that's the best part of that game, though.
But I wasn't a huge like fan of the shrines and like the just the puzzle, this like extreme puzzle like aspect of it.
Sure.
Where you're like having to pause and activate different abilities and weapons to I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just old and cranky and I want my original Zelda.
I'm with you.
That's
Briar's definitely with you there.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, but I guess they can't just continue making, 1980s games, right? They have to.
Sure.
My kids love it. I have one son that's played through Breath of the Wild numerous times, many, many times, and starts doing, all the special quests and all that stuff.
Yeah. There's almost endless content in that game, especially with the DLCs. And now is it Tears of the Kingdom? Is that the name of the sequel that's coming out?
Yeah.
That's in a couple months.
It's like May 17th or something like 14th maybe. Yeah. I've been trying really hard to get a collector's edition, but I haven't had any luck.
Did you know that there was a 16-bit remake of the original Legend of Zelda?
I didn't know that.
It released only in Japan on the Super Famicom Satellaview, which was sort of an online live experience. And so I read and like watched a little bit of a video of this. Basically, you were like a character, almost like a Mii from the Wii. It wasn't Link. You could be like a girl Link, you could be a boy, you could be whatever. And it was this live experience, kind of like, think of like the Sega Channel, but it would be other people in the game, and there'd be like an announcer, and there's like pauses in the ROM. There's a ROM for this that you can download. And it looks like Link to the Past style, but it's like more of the original Zelda. There are some differences in the game too, but it's mostly a like a version of Legend of Zelda for 16-bit. But there's like long pauses where the person who was playing was like, I thought it was broken, but it was just like a minute. You just had to sit here and wait.
Was it because it was like literally downloading off of the service?
No, it was like there'd be like a dialogue that you're waiting for that was happening live and stuff.
Oh yeah,
like
it wouldn't
that.
have to download it as ROM. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you're sitting in the ROM and you're sitting there having to wait, and there's no sound, there's no music, like, but it looks cool. It looks like Link to the Past. I don't know. Japan didn't even get a cartridge of this game until 1994.
Interesting. Well, they had the
disc.
Yeah. How popular was that disc system in Japan?
It was wildly popular.
Was it?
It was the first game to sell 1 million in a day. This game was.
Yeah.
In Japan?
That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I mean, the main reason we had Nintendo over here was because of the wild success in Japan. And being able to, go in and get games written on the discs. We never had anything like that.
No.
You just go in and pay for a service to get a new game, put on your disc.
I didn't know you could do that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we get discs in, I mean, you don't really know what's on it unless you have a way of testing it.
You probably have one of those. I mean, they're not super expensive to pick one of those up nowadays either.
No, they're just really finicky. I mean,
Yeah,
the
they're
best is
kinda-
like the Twin Famicom is probably the most reliable.
You can play both carts and
Yeah. The Sharp.
nice.
I mean, they're somewhat valuable. I mean, they're a few $100.
Just the disc system or the
No, for like the
dual
Twin
system?
Famicom.
Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, they're really finicky. Really
Like
finicky.
a 30-year-old disk drive ought to be.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of constantly needing adjustments and new belts and stuff like that.
I need new belts often too.
You need new jokes is what you need.
I don't have jokes. I just look like a joke.
Okay.
The last little note here is that the little recorder is the same as the warp whistle sound in Super Mario Bros. 3. That thing. It pretty much is
What was
identical.
that? Is that how it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty close.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting. Little copies of things here and there. Trying to think if there's anything else I missed.
This game looks old, I feel like, especially like the opening screen, like when you first like boot it up and you're like, oh, I forgot this game looks like this. But give it a half an hour. I really think you'll like it. You know, it's once you start getting into it and once you start getting used to like the flow of the combat and like looking for stuff and open up a guide, like, you know, there's plenty of guides for this game. I mean, there's plenty of guides for this game, and if you get stuck, just look up where to go next. You know, it's a really fun game. It holds up, and like you said, it's available on the Switch Online service. Cartridges aren't expensive, right? They're like less than $30, I would guess.
Probably,
Yeah, like $35-$40 depending on.
Yeah, this is well worth playing through.
I have a few in store if you want.
He does. So Josh, the Sidequest also does online sales too.
Yeah.
Local / online.
Yep.
Cool. I thought it was cool. You told me that credit you can use online too. That if you like trade in stuff, you can use the credit. Or is that the one that's coming?
That's not true. Yeah. So we're working on that.
Okay. Future.
Currently,
future.
it's not. Yeah. Future.
Did you want to stick around for the pickups? We typically do like our.
What do you got?
Did you have some pickups? Like you wanted to show off some stuff you showed me before.
You want me to show off pickups?
If just you had the things on the desk you showed like right when we started the call.
Oh yeah, those are kind of old, but yeah, I can show them right now.
Sure.
Well, jeez. So one of my, of course, Zelda. This is a complete in box copy, first print Zelda. And the way you can tell is you'll have the trademark symbol after Zelda and then after the Nintendo Entertainment System down below.
And
probably not going to focus. Yeah, well, yeah, not no Rev A. It's not going to focus with those cases. One of my other favorite games that I got into with my younger brother was actually Bucky O'Hare. This is a sealed copy that I picked up, actually off Heritage Auctions a year or two ago. Another fun game that would be worth having a show on.
Sure.
And then Bad News Baseball. This was I don't know. I played this a lot with my brothers, and you could have play as the girls mode, and then there's the boys mode, and there's the rabbit as the umpire. It's kind of a goofy game, but that just brings a lot of memories back. So those are a few that I grabbed that I'll probably never sell type stuff.
You initially wanted to do the choice as Bad News Baseball, but that was based on the fact that we might be in the same room for the podcast.
Yeah. So I thought you were gonna invite me over, and you know, I invited you into my store
Sure.
and into the back room. I thought we had this like thing going.
Yeah. We
And
do.
You showed me your spoon trick and everything, and
This is not the
you
way you
know,
get reballed, Jay.
no, this is not. So,
I wish I had the space set up to do that kind of thing. That would be
and
cool.
no, I thought that I could challenge you to a game of Bad News Baseball.
Sure.
So,
I want to play it now. I'm on the lookout for a complete unboxed copy. So if you get a copy, let me know.
yeah, I probably have one of those. If I'll set one aside for you.
All right.
And then you can start practicing. Well,
I'm gonna get owned.
We can play, and we could have an in-store battle, live
Bad
stream it,
News
and
baseball tournament.
we could have like a little tournament.
It'll be the next
but-
on the main stage of Evo this year.
Bad News Baseball.
A lot of people don't like that game as much. They like RBI baseball or whatever, but that's just one that I've enjoyed.
Oh god, I played Bases Loaded, and then I think there was a Bases Loaded was a big one, and the Robot Baseball 2000 or whatever
Yeah.
it was. I played that a lot.
Baseball simulator.
Yeah. Wasn't there an NES Robot Baseball too?
Baseball Simulator 2000.
That's the NES one.
There's a lot of baseball games.
Yeah, those were fun. Like just simple, the controls were simple. It was all about timing.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, Bad News Baseball can get frustrating too because the timing sometimes just gets messed up and you just get wrecked.
I was just listening to a podcast of somebody who's doing a video about all of the Japanese baseball games on the NES or on the Famicom. There's over 40 in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah, which is for one sport. That's a lot.
There, yeah. You got any pickups, Briar?
No.
Okay. I do have some stuff. I showed off the stuff that I got from your store 2 weeks ago, Josh.
Okay.
The cool stuff from the back room. I have to preface this that some of this stuff was from the other retro store. I had a bunch of credit just sitting there, so I was like,
we all make poor decisions. So.
I just had to see what they had.
No, I'm just messing with you.
I did pick this up off of price charting actually. It's not a big pickup or anything like that, but it's in good shape. Super Glove Ball for the NES.
You're not gonna play that.
Do you have a glove to go with it? Do you have
a
power
glove?
I do have a glove. Yeah, it was a birthday present to myself.
But you need a CRT, man.
I know. I'm not necessarily gonna play it. It was an expensive game, but
okay.
the story behind it. This is one of the first games that came with the glove, and it's not a good game.
How many games came for the glove? There wasn't many.
Like 3 or 4.
Yeah, something like that. But this,
I mean, you can play a lot of games with the glove, but there's only some that were really made for it.
Right. Whenever there was a documentary on the Super Glove on Amazon Prime that I watched, and this was like the one that they always tested the glove with people, like at events and stuff. They were always playing the glove ball. And so I saw it and I was like, oh, that looks cool. I want to pick it up. So I did.
The Gaming Historian, is that the one you watched?
No, it was the Love of Love, the Love of Glove.
No, that's a different channel. That's a lot.
What is it called?
I don't think that's on Amazon Prime, buddy.
It was some like pun.
Glove of Love.
Yeah, it was for the love of glove or something like that. It was some kind of pun.
No love without the glove.
Was there a kid that would wear the thing like 24/7?
Yes, everywhere, and he'd like go to conventions with the glove and everything like that.
He'd wear it on the subway all the time. Yeah. He just wore the glove.
It was like part of his identity was having that glove. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Do you know there's 2 different sizes?
Yes, I have a large.
Oh.
There's like a large and then like a kid size.
Okay. I have one right in front of me actually.
Oh, nice. I've been looking for a complete in-box one in good shape because they're always destroyed.
Yeah, I have a boxed one here, but I can show it to you. I think you might have seen it already.
I don't know if I did, but usually when you see those, like half of the side is torn off, just like they're not in good shape because it's thin cardboard. I got Bust a Move 2 for the N64. I need to get a manual for this, but it was in okay shape. The price was right. I didn't know that this was a rare-ish title.
Dracula. Is that
Bram
Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Stoker's Dracula, but for NES. So the NES version is slightly rare. The SNES one is not. That's just a complete in box one, Josh?
Yeah, man, it's just sitting back here.
How are the sides? He's getting me to buy shit. I might. That's not new in box, right? It's just complete in box.
No, it's pretty nice, and it is a large.
How is everything on the inside? Is it like new inside?
Honestly, we haven't even processed it yet, so
I might actually want that depending on the price.
Yeah. No, it looks like yeah. We can talk later.
We'll talk later.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. We'll do some quick.
It's fun to get him, fun to tease him a bit. Like,
yeah. No, I've been looking for one. I have an eBay saved search for that. I've been looking for one for a while.
You can set that up in my store too, right? Wish list.
I haven't gotten that far yet, but thank you for letting me know. Tony Hawk. This is so some of these are pretty minty. Actually, this is a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I had a copy, but it's pretty beat up. This one's really nice. It has all the inserts and everything on the inside. Not an expensive game, but Tony Hawk series brings a lot of love back for me.
I just got a copy of the remake for the PS5.
Yeah, it's good.
Man, I thought I was pretty good at that game, and it's hard.
I used to be
you play online with when that first came out, you just get destroyed by people doing these combos, and yeah, it's wild. I played a lot of Tony Hawk on Dreamcast, actually.
Yeah, so did I.
Back in high school.
I played a bunch on the N64. I was one of the better ones of our friend group, but yeah, I can't imagine online being all that great.
I didn't even know it was out for the N64. What did they do for the soundtrack?
1, 2, and 3. No, it's the same soundtrack.
It can't be. It's not a CD.
Huh?
On the PlayStation, on other consoles that had CD, it was all licensed music. It was actual CD quality music.
I'm pretty sure it's like that on the N64 too. It's just probably down quality. Yeah. It was all the rock music from the soundtrack and stuff. I don't know.
You have to plug it in.
Yep. Rush 2. I now have my favorite is Rush 2049, but now I have Rush 2 again, really good shape.
Is that connected to the San Francisco Rush series?
Yes, it is. I believe. The first one is just called San Francisco Rush, and then this is Rush 2, and then Rush 2049 are all in N64.
They rushed out of San Francisco.
Star Trek Anniversary, 25th anniversary for the NES. 25th anniversary. What year is this? It was the 25th anniversary. It says 91. So whatever anniversary it is now. Again, great shape. It's not necessarily something that's on my list, but if I find good shape stuff and I have credit, I'll hook things up. Willow.
Oh, I love that game.
Talking
about games that are just like Zelda.
look at that art. It's just.
Is it because of the Netflix series?
I don't know. It's consistently gone up. It's not an expensive. It's like a $20 or $30 cart, but it's kind of hard to find in minty shape like this. And again, they had it priced right, and it's in great shape. So
that's a good game.
I haven't played it. Have you played it?
Yeah, I played it when I was a kid.
Kind of looks like oh god,
Zelda.
Yeah, a little bit.
I told you.
little bit. Fighters. What is this? King of Fighters Neo Blood. EX. They have 2 of these for the GBA. This is the first one. Again, just stuff that you don't come across every day. At least I don't. Josh probably does. And then my favorite. This is the game. It's not a rare, expensive game, but this brings back a lot of memories for me and a lot of love. The game and the show, Ren and Stimpy, Space Cadet Adventures Mint. It is. There's no dents at all in this thing.
Wow.
But it's not a good game. It's not expensive, but I played it and loved the show as a kid, so I had to pick it up. I like cardboard.
That's cool. Yeah. Man, you outdid us.
It's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to. If I turn my camera around, I'd have to show you all the stuff that we get, but it's not the same.
No.
Just not the same.
A lot of Skylanders.
No, we've actually had a lot of NES and Super Nintendo stuff trade in lately.
Well, you told me like just in 2023 you've had what 2 full NES sets traded in or
Wow.
sold to you?
Yeah.
God, that must be heartbreaking to
Yeah.
get rid of after doing all that work to put it together.
Yeah, I
Yes
mean,
and
usually
no.
just. I mean, the fun of it a lot of times is just the search, the hunt.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, when significant others find out that it's worth 25 grand or 35 grand, whatever, they're like, yeah, we could add it onto the house, or we could pay
Yeah.
for college, or,
In
hair
this economy?
implants or something. Like, yeah.
And
I'd rather
a
have
lot of
the
those
games.
people a lot of those people that have the collections like, spend a fraction of what they're worth now. So they're like, okay, I can start over or piece down my collection, be more selective, that kind of stuff. I understand it. I'm not going for full sets. I just go for stuff that brings me joy.
Yeah.
Stuff that like gives me a little tingle, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
How was the tingle when I brought you into the back room?
It was going overload and I was
it was-
overwhelmed and I was trying to hone in like, okay, I can probably get these amongst all of this stuff,
So we talked a little bit before about, your wife wanting you to sell stuff. So now that you're starting to acquire stuff again, how's that going for you?
Oh, it's fine. Like,
Do you have to like hide it? Do you
No,
have to
no.
bring in
Blink
one-
twice if she's in the room.
she likes when I can trade stuff in, get double what I paid for it, and then get,
Oh wow, jeez. You gotta rub it in like that.
No,
guy.
I mean, I tell her like, I spent $50 on this game. They gave me 100 credits. She's like, oh, great. Good. That's
Where's
50
my
bucks out of
cut?
Yeah. She's like, that's $50 out of our money. But I don't always go crazy like this, but I just had credit and they had stuff and it was cheap stuff. I go through ebbs and flows. Like I'll buy a bunch and then I'll like sell a bunch, get a bunch, take a break, and then it just continues. Yours is constant.
I just buy, yeah. We do pretty high volume, but we get these just massive collections all at once.
Well, you've like driven to different states, or people have driven to you with.
Oh yeah.
Some of the games that I got from 2 weeks ago, you said the guy drove up from another state to sell to you. That's crazy.
Yeah, I had to drive all the way across the country.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wanted to get cash.
Yeah, it's true.
Jay, what is the pick for the game next week?
I was thinking about that, and I realized halfway through the episode that it's my turn to pick.
Yeah.
We haven't done. Well, let's talk about this. We haven't done Tony Hawk. We haven't done. What haven't we done? What are some good ones that we haven't done?
I mean, we've only
Well,
done...
if you're talking retro, right?
Sure.
Anything from the PS3 apparently is,
Son of a bitch.
that's retro.
What are some of the things that we talked about on the show?
Bad News Baseball, Zelda 2. I feel like we should give Zelda 2 some room to breathe, though.
Yeah, we'll wait
Bucky
on.
O'Hare is a lot of fun.
We'll wait on 1080. Oh, Bucky
Have
O'Hare.
you done like Punch Out yet?
Yes, we have done
Yeah.
Punch Out.
Yeah.
That was one of the first ones because that was a favorite of mine as a kid. Bucky O'Hare would be a good pick. I haven't ever played it. I do own a cart that's not cheap.
Okay.
It is not.
They're
cheap
not
game.
super cheap.
I own it as well in digital form.
Yeah, you can emulate it.
I was frustrated too because the other retro store put a complete in box copy on their social media, and I had a bunch of credit, and I called them, and they're like, "It's gone already." I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
They probably priced it pretty decently. They priced their complete in box stuff pretty good actually. But
all right, fellas,
think
we're
we
approaching
just sold
2.5
this one.
hours. I still got to edit this show tonight, so I'm gonna say
Okay.
let's wrap this one up.
Bucky O'Hare.
Bucky O'Hare sounds great to me.
All right.
Sweet.
That's good.
Now I have a
Thank you
reason
for
to come
joining
back
us.
and watch.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Josh. It was a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
thank you. It's been great meeting you.
Sidequest
Yeah.
games in Port. Is it just straight up Portland?
Yeah.
And the Sidequest Expo March 18th and 19th, I think you said.
Yep. Next weekend.
Doubletree in Portland.
Yep.
Should be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us. You want to
Yeah,
take us out,
that
Brian?
was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Have a wonderful 2 weeks, and we'll see you soon with Bucky O'Hare on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Goodbye.
Bye.